Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning, happy Sunday. How are you doing? Well, I hope, and having some nice well-earned rest as well. Not I, though. I'm the photo-negative existence. During the week is when I cool my heels in the countryside, and the weekends is when I put my elbow to the grindstone. Is that the phrase, Benedict? I'm really bad at phrases. I always get them wrong.
Elbow to the grindstone. Pedal to the metal. Pedal to the metal might be better.
Roll sleeves.
You're an F1 fan. I'd have thought you'd have gone for that.
Yeah, I always get sayings wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'll say I'm the sort of person who says brightest tool in the box.
Brightest tool.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? like Sir Keir Starmer. Anyway, Benedict Spencer's here, and I hope you're going to keep us company as well for the next 3 hours. We've got a packed show coming up for you, and if you want to be part of it, because why wouldn't you? The number to call is 03444 499 1000, and it's your normal network rate. So whatever that means to you, it also means to me. You can also send me a WhatsApp on that number, or leave me a little voice note. Make it something jolly and fun. It is a Sunday after all. 87222 is the number to send me a text message. If you do that, you've got to write talk before you text. Right, now housekeeping is done. Shall we talk, first of all, about the scenes, the absolute utter scenes in London yesterday? Did you go down, by any chance?
No. Of course not. You think I go to that sort of thing on a weekend? I have far more important things to do.
Well, I did.
I retired to my country estate. That's what I do. No, I was actually, I've got to be honest, I was watching scenes of an entirely different nature in a pub elsewhere. I mean, you're obviously talking about
football.
Yeah, you were watching the Unite the Kingdom rally and something else that was going on. And I was watching the biggest debacle in Scottish football since last year. So, yeah, that's what I was up to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
it was actually a big deal. There were fights breaking out. It was great.
I don't do football.
It was more important.
Oh, I did hear, actually, people started trying to attack the players.
Yeah.
When I was listening to radio this morning. Maybe I should have watched.
You should have watched. It was high drama, and there were fights on the pitch.
I always say I don't like sport unless there's a real risk of maiming or injury.
Then you should watch Scottish football more often.
Okay,
it's actually a fairly common event.
There we go. But anyway, do you know what? I got a little thing to say. That's right. I got down the barrel coming in. I think I got something in me. Okay, I got burning desire.
How long is this going to take?
I don't know. How long does a rant normally take?
Can I go make another cup of coffee? Or?
You may not.
Okay. 2 to 3 minutes then.
So what I want to do, right? I just want to make it very clear, because I'm slightly misunderstood in this day and age, what is good and what is evil. Because, you know, I'm 42 years old, but I don't really understand the difference anymore between goodness and badness. I'm going to have to be re-educated. Let me explain why. So, the things that I once thought were good, like, I don't know, Christian hymns, waving of the national flag, families together, uplifting speeches talking about how great our country is, being proud of our history, that is evil, right? This is what I've understood. That is all now in the evil bucket. The things that are in the good bucket, however, are screaming about killing the IDF, hating the Jews, screeching about Nazis and fascists and stamping on their necks. That is goodness. Okay, that is what being morally righteous is all about. So let's just get this straight in our minds. Remember, if you like family values, Christianity and the country, you're evil. If you hate Jewish people, call everyone Nazis and screech about killing people at the top of your lungs, you're good. There you go. I've got it. I figured it out. I'm glad I'm now 21st century ready.
Yes. No, that's that was very enlightening. Now I finally understand where I've been going on all of these years.
Now I realise exactly why people think I'm a monster.
You are.
I
you
am.
are, frankly.
I'm deeply monstrous.
You are.
I am so monstrous.
You live under a bridge. That's how monstrous you are.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try and shake down goats for their money. It's really bad. It doesn't matter.
That just sounded weird. I thought that was an adage that I didn't know for my collection.
The goats that
Goat
go
shaking
over the,
money making.
No, like
Anyway, so I did go down to the United Kingdom Rally. The crowds were enormous. I'm just going to tell you honestly, right, what I saw. Observation number one wasn't so much an observation, it was less about the eyes, more about the nose, is there seemed to be a lot of weed smoking. I think I came away from that rally slightly high, if I'm honest. People were using the opportunity, not everyone, but, you know, it's a tangy smell. So there was a fog of cannabis in the air, can I just say. There are a number of people gathered at that rally who clearly
better than cordite. You know, let's look on the bright
who
side.
were clearly on the old peace pipe.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was the only thing I can say that was negative about the occasion. There was a lot of hilarity, a lot of, you know, punchy phrases. You had Kelly J. Keane talking about protecting women. You had Bishop Kai, who was on the show, talking about the importance of Christianity in our society. We had a lot of speakers talking about positive things about the United Kingdom, our great history. We had an American speaker who was basically saying, you know, we are all in this shared fight together and we love you, Britain. There was a black gospel choir. Of course, that's evil. Remember, racist. So that's what went on, and there were hordes and hordes and hordes and hordes and hordes of people there. I suppose the only spiciness was people shouting, Keir Starmer is a...
Toolmaker.
Yeah, at the crowds. But it was sort of done in a slightly jolly way, and lots of Union flags. Oh, and Israeli flags. Oh, loads of Iranian flags, and Iranians there saying thank you for understanding our plight, living under an Islamist regime. Down the road. So down the road, Nakba Day, that's it, because obviously that's now a British tradition. I didn't realise this, that every year it is a British thing to go and have a bit of Nakba time, you know? Remember how much you hate Israel and the Jews, and how Muslims are always the people who are persecuted. So now that's become part of our cultural fabric. I need to let you know the sort of things, the sort of phrases that you might need to understand if you're going to be part of that. There was something, I heard the word Zog. I've never heard that before, which is, I don't know, I think it's a very racist word.
What does it mean? I'm assuming it's Zionist
it
something.
It's Zionist occupying Grimbo or something.
Well, that's a high IQ.
Here we go. So we've got Smash the Far Right.
Okay, fair enough. All
right. Let's see.
Are you trying to find the ones that you can actually read out?
Here.
Yeah,
exactly. It's too much paper. But obviously a bit of Smash the Far Right.
A list would have been good, yes.
Got Nazi signs here. Great. That poster's got Nazi signs. Oh, look, all these people got masks. You can't actually see who they are.
How many people
Someone
actually
in a
went to
full-blown hazmat suit.
How many people actually went to this Nakba Day thing?
I think it's about 20,000 to Nakba, 80,000 to unite the kingdom. Is
you see, the thing, the major takeaway that I have with that is it's quite low energy, that 20,000. It's significantly smaller than what these anti-Israel protests were at their very height. And that's because ultimately, well, a couple of things. One, I do think that the whole thing is running out of steam a little bit in terms of being purely about Israel. But also I think it's because when you sort of dive down into the whole concept of what the Nakba is, it's a bit silly, to be honest. It commemorates the day that multiple Arab nations and communities invaded their neighbour, tried to commit genocide, failed, and their people had to move 20 miles down the road. It's not actually the biggest thing. Yeah, if we're being completely honest here, when you sort of set it against, for instance, the Holocaust that happened mere months beforehand, you know, the Second World War ended between the end of the Holocaust and the Nakba. And you're looking at it and you're going, oh, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians had to leave their homes. And you're all kind of sat there going, oh, had to leave their homes? Where did they have to go? Oh, they had to go here, you know, to the next village along. You're like, oh, doesn't actually sound all so bad. And why did they have to do that?
What?
Oh, well, because they invaded the Israelis and they lost. And you're like, oh, wait, so hang on. Let's sort of go through this in terms of a timeline. The Israelis are given a smaller part of the land, less than 20%, and the Arabs are given, what, about 80%. The Israelis say, thanks very much, we'll take that, we'll take anything we can get. The Arabs go, no, we want all of it. They invade, they lose, and they have to leave.
Yes,
and
but
it's
this
kind
is
of like,
what I'm saying. Did you not hear at the start of this that
just broken the chair.
evil is good and good is evil? This is what I've learned.
But my point is that turnout is just vanishingly small in the grand. Like at the height of these protests, these marches against Israel and in favour of the Palestinian cause, it was huge numbers of people every single week. This is quite... it just feels as though a lot of the sort of the momentum behind it has gone.
When you look at the pictures of them, they don't look pleasant.
Well, of course they don't look pleasant.
There were a lot of Antifa folks with like full-blown balaclavas and masks.
Yeah.
There were all sorts of... Oh, here you go. ZOG stands for Zionist Occupied Government. There we go, I've learnt.
Is that a reference to the British government? Is that saying that the British government has been co-opted by Israel? A Zionist occupied government would be one, a government that's been
occupied. What you had was sort of spit-flecked, rabid, screaming, screeching nutjobs who just want to stamp on necks, kill everyone, call everyone a Nazi, which is probably the worst possible term you can use, basically. And they are all nice and good and cuddly and lovely. And if you remember, they're part of our social fabric. When Sir Keir Starmer did his little speech, and he said, I don't like hatred and I don't like division, and all these far-right people don't represent Britain, but, oh, the Nakba lot. Yay, that's real, Britain. These are the people just like me. And I'm like, I'm just so fed up with this utter drivel.
It is
drivel. And everyone can see it is drivel. And they play along with it. They're still playing along with it.
The importing of foreign ethnic grievances like this is just... I think it just irritates people to the nth degree. People in the UK are more than happy to march against what they perceive to be injustice. And let's be clear here, there are a lot of people who marched on these pro-Palestine marches who, whilst they were very wrong about what the circumstances are, genuinely believe that they're doing it for sort of morally upstanding reasons. We can take that and we can put that to one side because we don't have time to argue about how wrong they are. But the point is, they were doing it because they felt it was the morally right thing to do. However, when it goes beyond that, it goes beyond the perception of just there are war crimes happening now and we should do something about it, to let's import our ethnic grievances from around the world. I think a lot of ordinary people just sort of sigh and go, actually, is that what we want to do? Is that what we're doing? That doesn't seem like a particularly productive use of my time. Right. Doesn't seem like a very progressive thing to do. Might even seem a little bit racist.
There's a very nasty underbelly to all of this. And I think that we've got to get real now about the left wing, about the far left, the new left. We've got to get real, because when we look at assassination attempts on Trump, when we look at the fact that Nigel Farage needed money for his own security, he's had all sorts of projectiles thrown at him. He's had people try and set fire to his house. When we look at the assassination of Charlie Kirk, when we look... there was a... do you remember Rhiannon White, the poor young lady who was murdered brutally by a migrant from a hotel? Her mother was on the stage at the United Kingdom rally. When you look at that and you think that this is utterly ridiculous, posturing but dangerous policy to allow random we all know this conversation, random undocumented men to just come in, give them a hotel, wander around the streets. We've got to get real about this, because it is the main thing that is breaking the West. It's going to total us economically, culturally, societally. We can't keep sitting back and going, oh, that's okay, and laughing about it.
Well, the funny thing about all of this is that whatever one might think about the Unite the Kingdom rally, the idea of a strong and centralised national identity, a sense of national identity, is actually the most important thing for immigrants. If people want to come to the UK and they want to be British, there needs to be something for them to assimilate into, because actually that is what provides them the protections that, we're always told about how vulnerable these people are, about, how much they have to give to us. Actually, if you want to be safe in any society, the very first thing you have to do is be a part of that society. You have to be assimilated into it. And the UK has done a spectacularly good job of hollowing out its own identity and rejecting its identity, the state I mean, rejecting it and saying, this is bad, we need to rip it all down and start from the ground back up again. And that's a really dangerous thing, especially because so many of the people that are coming here actually have incredibly strong notions of what their own identity is.
Of course, and they bring it with them.
Yeah, exactly. So if they're not coming into a society that is strong and assertive about its identity, and say identity, there are multiple identities in the UK, Scottish, Welsh, English as well. These things are important to recognise the distinction. But if you actually undermine those identities that people move into, then you get chaos, then you get balkanisation. Actually, there are no good examples in human history of throwing people into that kind of melting pot. And the example people always use is the US, and they say melting pot. The whole thing about the US is the US forced people to accept American identity. It put them through the ringer, and it's only since it stopped doing that you've started to get the serious interethnic problems across the country.
It's just been unmitigated disaster, whether you look at South Africa, whether you look at Lebanon.
Nobody thinks of the Balkans as a particularly homely place. Yeah, exactly. That's why the word is there.
You said that the UK's done an incredible job of destroying its own culture and heritage. It isn't us. What I saw yesterday at the Unite the Kingdom rally is people going, I'm done with this now. I want to be British and celebrate Britain.
It is us.
And
no, it is
us. It's politicians, it's people in the media who represent a minority. It is not the ordinary man and woman. They've been bullied. They've been bullied.
How much are the Greens currently polling?
Okay, so
how much is Labour, despite everything, currently polling? How much is the Lib Dems currently polling?
I think this stuff has come from the top down.
What is the top?
The ordinary men and women of this country didn't turn around and suddenly decide to hate this country.
What is the top when you say the top down? Let's go back to that New Statesman. Do you remember that New Statesman?
It's media. It's not the ordinary citizen.
For everybody, I'm afraid it is increasingly.
They're ordinary citizens who are getting sucked along into it because they think it's moral posturing.
Well, this is the thing. Actually, it is. Yes, exactly. They think it makes them look good. It has become the fashionable and the acceptable standard of the middle classes.
Exactly.
And this is that's the majority of people. I'm really sorry to say that is in fact the majority of people. And it is a soft thing, and it is a creeping thing, and it is an insidious thing. And you also have to tie that in with the fact that a lot of people in this country are now of migrant background, and they play a part of it. So when you're taking everybody into the equation, and this is why now you have the backlash from the white working class in this country, because many of them recognise what is happening to other echelons in society. But let's be very clear here. There was an article in the New Statesman. Anybody who doesn't know, the New Statesman is a left-leaning political magazine in this country. It's perhaps the most important left-leaning political magazine in this country. And it approached this topic that, up until now, nobody's been prepared to do. We've heard at length the dangers of white working-class boys turning to the manosphere, becoming incels, becoming right-wing. What nobody's been talking about is the onset of political radicalism amongst young women, not working class women, middle and upper middle class young women. And this is not something that is just a fad. It really has to be understood. This is not a passing phase. They're not going to get out of it.
I can tell you exactly what's going on with them, because it's having a blimmin' Gucci handbag. It is posturing, it is narcissism, it is vanity. But my argument,
is it the majority or is it not
wasn't about the people who are adopting it. My argument is about the provenance. It's where it has come from, which is from a tiny radical minority who have imposed it upon people politically, imposed it on people through television, culturally, created this whole new moral order where good is bad and bad is good, and if you don't go along with it, you risk, if the middle classes, you risk being ostracised. That is what's gone on.
It's not a radical minority, though. A lot of this happened under the Conservative government. Like, a lot of this was done under the mainstream. It's not a radical minority.
I'm afraid, didn't address it.
No, it's not that they didn't address it. They actively pursued it. And this is one of the very funny things. This is, of course, why people got very irritated when actually you see lots of defections from the Tory party to the Reform Party. Lots of people were sort of sitting there going, hang on, these people were not passive elements of the regime. These were people who actively pursued certain policies in certain cases. These are people who we have on record saying things like Nadim Zahawi, for instance, actually on record saying that he thought immigration and more immigration was a good thing. And lots of people then turn around and go, hang on, now you've done a volte-face. Robert Jenrick was another good example. He was the arch Cameroon until politically he realised, this isn't very expedient. I should probably change my views. And and what I would say is, whether or not these people are genuine in their conversions, a lot of people, enough people who were supporters of reform, saw that and thought, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that it appears to be, once again, the chameleon changing its colour. Okay. And this is why there is a lot of dissent on the right.
We are wandering into all sorts of different topics now. We've got to stay on some rails because otherwise we're going to get the production staff very confused about what stop lines they should be putting up. But at the moment, they've got the number to call. So if you want to join the conversation, I'm going to read it out in case you're listening rather than watching. 0344499 1000. It's your normal network rate. 8722 to text. Write talk before you text. And no, as someone's message, do I have to write talk before I WhatsApp? You don't. It's only with the text messages. Right, let's do a few messages, shall we? Nose to the grindstone, thank you. Shoulder to the wheel, thank you.
Elbow to the what?
I don't know.
To the backside.
Elbow to the leftists. Good morning, Alex. I'm off to church. We'll tune in when I get back. Praise God, says John. I'll be going to the late service today. Nose to the grindstone. Okay, yep, we got there. The UK, you remember, is well gone, dead and buried, unfortunately. As a Christian, I believe in resurrection. Roger from Wales says, how long before this Ebola outbreak comes to the UK via the boats? Well, I don't know is the answer, but the thing is about Ebola, it always starts in the DRC, spreads to neighbouring countries and usually gets shut down because, believe it or not, Africa takes it very seriously and it's very difficult to get across borders when there's an Ebola outbreak. As someone who lived in Ghana, I remember all the stringent tests. So David Dorset likes the colour of my jacket. Why, thank you. I like this one. Hi, Alex and Murgatroyd. Thanks for making my Sunday deliveries more interesting. I like that, Murgatroyd today. For some reason, yesterday, Pete Barnes started being called Farquhar.
Right. Okay.
And this is an interesting message from Andy from Cheddar. I find it extremely interesting that Israel came second in the Eurovision Song Contest last night. Some people obviously support them. And the UK, on the other hand, received un point. Because that's how much the EU love us. This is true. As much as, Spain they vetoed joining in, and Ireland, and all these people didn't, participate in Eurovision because Israel. Guess what? And again, this is what I'm saying. When you give people a voice, they turn and go, actually rather like Israel. I don't really like the people in Gaza, if I'm honest with you. And yet they're trying to force it, aren't they? The politicians and the media are trying to force everybody to, not watch Eurovision or, hate Israel. And then the people go, nope, voting for them. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Exactly. Right, let's take a break now, but don't go anywhere because we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to, well, is it a leadership contest? Is it not? I mean, of course it's a leadership contest, but it feels a bit like Schrodinger's leadership contest at the moment. What is in store? How on earth are Labour going to win a by-election when the message is going to be, don't vote Labour, basically, because Starmer's make it make sense. We'll try and do that after this.
welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCown.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel.
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the programme. Let us talk about this this blooming leadership contest. I'm just so fed up. What is going to be our 7th Prime Minister in like 7 minutes? It's just, you know...
7th in 6 years.
They're such morons, aren't they? You've got Wes Streeting doing his... I'm launching my bid to become leader by saying I want to rejoin the EU. That's going to work. That's going to make people get on your side. Then you've got Andy Burnham, who hasn't said anything, but King of the North. He's going to struggle to win that seat, I reckon.
You know, that's why Streeting's done that, though, don't you?
Oh, I know, to sort of... I know.
Because if he comes out and says, I want to join the EU, we all know Burnham wants to rejoin the EU, but he probably hoped he wouldn't have to. So now Burnham has to say in a seat that voted 2/3 to leave, oh, yes, I'm also in favour of rejoining the EU.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I know.
I think it's quite funny. I'm looking forward to this leadership contest.
It's been deliberately kiboshed. This is why, you know, Starmer's actually being quite tactical here. Because, you know, he blocks him running in Gorton and Denton. Then as soon as he's like, oh, I'm going to run in Makerfield, and Starmer's like... Go on then, son. You just try. But it's an absolute pantomime, which is going to suck all the attention and energy out of everything. And what's it going to deliver? I don't know. Probably Sir Keir Starmer. What is the point?
Well, do you know what I was going to say?
And is it going to make Labour more popular? No, the opposite.
What I've been thinking is actually, where has this Keir Starmer been? This Keir Starmer who's suddenly sort of very Machiavellian, very scheming, very blunt, very brusque with his colleagues. The whole thing about at the cabinet meeting where he said, I'll talk to you all individually about this, and then promptly told them all, oh, I don't have time to talk to you individually, and left. I thought it was very, very funny the way that he's handling this. He clearly has lost any and all patience with many other members of his party, which, to be fair, is something that we all share. So have we. Yeah. And actually, this is the thing. If, you know, Burnham is now standing in a seat that Reform are going to throw the kitchen sink at, it's going to be epic to watch this particular battle. Even if they don't win, there's every chance that he gets in, if Burnham does win, with the slightest of majorities, far too narrow a majority for the Labour Party to look at him and go, do we really want to back this guy? Because there's a chance we could lose a Prime Minister at a general election, at which point maybe he doesn't become leader, and then it is Starmer and Streeting. Everybody knows Starmer would win that battle. But
let's look at this in terms of, it's a very Brexity seat, it's very white and working class. Yeah. It doesn't. It's completely from what Pete Burns. Pete Burns. Well, that was
You've changed his name twice. Farquhar Burns.
Pete Barnes couldn't look any less different from Pete Burns.
Farquhar Burns sounds like a jazz musician. That's a great...
I know, Pete was saying to me that, you know, the sort of mentality there is we're not from Manchester. Yeah. It's now called Greater Manchester, but we're not.
No, it's Lancashire, isn't it?
So I think it is part of Greater Manchester.
Well, yeah, but it was traditionally...
No, that's what Pete was saying to me. It's like they still think of themselves as Lancashire and don't want to associate themselves with Manchester. Yeah. So great. Perfect candidate.
Well, he's not even from Manchester. He's a Scouser. You've got it's if anybody was sort of sitting here thinking, oh yes, this is going to be the great sort of identitarian candidate, it's an Everton supporting Scouser who's made himself the King of Manchester, coming to a part of the world that has nothing to do with either.
Because he's quite woke and leftist, and it's like.
Do you know what I would actually say? There's something about Andy Burnham that I do understand where it comes from. I don't think he'd be a particularly good Prime Minister, but there is something rather personable about him. I do believe, whereas I don't necessarily believe this about Starmer, I do believe that he's fundamentally a decent guy. But that does not a good Prime Minister make, and I do think that they are massively misjudging the national mood if they think this guy is the one that's going to.
But this is it. Well, I look at him and just think he's moronic. I'm like, you're not that bright, are you, lad? Because why are you standing in this seat?
That doesn't say much for the average politician in this country, does it?
And actually, talking about not that bright, I'm going to read this message by Dan in Bristol.
Okay.
And invite invite the turmoil that may well follow. I don't care.
You're having a great day, aren't you?
The by-election isn't even interesting anymore. Yeah. Restore Britain have announced they will stand. Great. Vote split. Well done, lads. Exactly. I'm like talking about moronic. Dear Rupert Lowe, you ain't going to win that seat. It's lose-lose. You either going to do really badly and look pointless, or if you do really well, it will potentially allow Labour to win the seat, and that looks ridiculous. This is lose-lose. Moronic choice. Politically moronic.
It's not politically moronic from where they're standing, from where Restore Britain are standing, because right now they are effectively a non-entity except in the Great Yarmouth area. But their long-term ambition, excuse me, is to supplant Reform. If you want to supplant Reform, you need to run a guerrilla insurgency, and you need to have the longevity to last 10, 15 years. And this is the thing. Because they know they're not going to win this. They know they're probably not even going to get 1,000 votes. But they might not need 1,000 votes. If all they need is, say, 200 to 300 votes away from Reform to keep Reform out, and if that keeps on chipping away at Reform's credibility, the idea that Reform actually can win these seats, that right now is all that Restore Britain needs to do. It is not interested in taking on the Labour Party or the Tories or anybody else. Its enemy, because it is to the right of Reform, is to take on Reform. That's who it's chipping away. So from their perspective, which is not about winning the country right now, it's just about beating Reform. You can see actually why they would do this.
No, exactly. No, I get
that.
No,
I understand your frustration. I understand your frustration because I bet you would be prepared to vote tactically to get a right-wing government. You'd be prepared to vote for whichever right-wing party was. If it was going to be, say, a hung parliament, you'd be prepared. And if there was no chance of Reform winning in your constituency, but there was a chance of a Tory getting in, you're not going to vote Labour. You're not going to. You'd probably, if you had to vote Tory. But the point here is that's about a grand vision for the country, which is a right-wing government. But Restore are not interested in that. They just want to beat Reform.
They're not interested in. Then exactly, it's a vanity project. They're not interested in actually doing anything worthwhile. And I'll give you a few examples of this. When you look at their policy on immigration, it doesn't go as far as Reform's policy on immigration, and doesn't really have enough meat on the bones to explain how they're going to do it, other than just shouting, "Millions must go." That's it. Wait.
Yes. No.
My show.
Actually,
I talk most.
No. I'm going to talk over you. Just very second.
Come on. Can I finish my thoughts, Benedict? Please.
No, this is the one chance that I get to talk over somebody else. I didn't actually have anything to say. I just wanted to interrupt you. Go on.
So first of all, the immigration policy, frankly, doesn't really go as far as Reform's. And whereas Reform is sitting there actually looking at all the legals for how things can be executed. And a good example of this is Rupert opened up a tweet yesterday. Reform-led council is still spending this much on translators. And it's like, you do realise that it's a Labour government, and unless you change the Equalities Act, the council has no choice, but actually it has cut the number of translators, done everything it can within the legal scope that it's able to do it. He doesn't get it because he just sits on a farm looking at his reflection in a mirror. And then his rape gang inquiry, which I thought at one point was really honourable and the right thing to do, turns out actually nothing's come of it, apart from Rupert Lowe thinking he's an overnight celebrity. And actually, and this is what actually sticks in my craw, because I didn't know this at the time, where there now is a statutory national inquiry, if that is going to lead to prosecutions, Rupert Lowe's vanity show has potentially prejudiced that. It will actually prevent people from actually facing the letter of the law through negligence or whatever it may be. Vanity project, vanity project, vanity project. And this, again, like you said, it's all about people getting to know who they are. Vanity project. If he can turn around and say, here's some policies that are actually going to cut through, here's why I'm doing this from a moral standpoint for the betterment of the country, rather than just blurt loud lines on social media going, "It must go, I don't care." It's a clown show. I find it, frankly, distasteful and lunatic at a time when the country are potentially in this sort of huge change. There's a fulcrum moment going on in politics now, which we've never seen before, not in my lifetime, not in 100 years since the origins of the Labour Party, frankly, that the two main parties are gone and a whole new politics is coming in. And finally, people might get to have a party in power that wants to deliver Brexit, that radically wants to control immigration, that wants to regain our culture and our heritage and all the rest of it. Just as that looks like a possibility, here comes some geezer shouting platitudes on social media, and the only effect it's going to have is preventing that outcome. And it's just ridiculous. I cannot understand why people are going along with this. It's mad.
If it's a clown show, like you've described, what's the threat?
Well, no, but this is it. We will see,
this is my
won't we?
point. This,
Which
yeah,
is
but
what my messaging
but
is.
therefore
It's
why-
either going to
but-
present itself as a threat or do hopelessly badly.
But therefore, why expend
Lose
the
lose.
energy? Why expend the energy even sort of confronting it? If it's not going to go anywhere, if it's just going to fizzle out because it's one man's
No, but
vanity
I don't
project.
know, do
And
I?
this is part of the thing, because I know you'll disagree with this. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Once upon a time, people said the same thing about another particular movement, that it was effectively a vanity project. Look where it's got to. Actually, it's done spectacularly well in achieving its aims. It's had several rebrands over time, but it is where it is. Once upon a time, though, people said it
But
was
the
a one-man band
difference is-
and it was about energy. Now, let's just sort of hypothetically, because, I have a lot of criticisms of Restore myself. But let's say, hypothetically, looking at where Reform have come from, they've come from a general sense of anger and fury at the state of the Conservative Party, because there was nobody ever really to keep the Conservatives honest, because UKIP and then the Brexit Party was a single issue. It was only when it became a multi-issue party that suddenly it began to gain much more permanent traction, and it keeps the Tories honest. What is to say that the same thing does not happen to Reform as happened to the Tories? Because let's be clear here, Nigel Farage is a force of nature, but he's not going to be around forever. Right now, if you look at everything underneath him, there's an awful lot of former Tories, a lot of very ambitious careerists, people who will jockey for that position. There is nothing to say that it won't end up the same clown show as the Tories ended up as. What is wrong, therefore, with have something
so first of
insurgent
all-
on the right to keep them honest? Let's look at Italy, for example.
Okay.
What happened to Matteo Salvini when there was an insurgent right-wing party to the right of him to keep him
get
honest?
that.
Meloni comes in
But
and puts in a proper
what I would say
government.
is this: as somebody who was, Nigel Farage's right-hand woman gazillions of years ago, there was a radical difference between what David Cameron was proposing with the One Nation Tory stuff and what Nigel Farage was proposing. Radical difference, okay? They were almost sort of opposite ends of the political spectrum. Like I said, Restore just doesn't say anything different. It
Well,
just
certainly.
shouts it louder in a more pompous way.
but
And I
isn't
know
the
there's a
point-
lot of criticisms going about Reform, and we can get into those, and, there's plenty of valid criticisms. But I just think this is just...
I am going to interrupt.
Oh, it's tiresome.
Here's your heads up. I am going to interrupt. Isn't the point that people look at the fact that the Conservatives used to pivot from X to Y and back again, depending on which way the wind blew? And that is why a lot of people lost trust with them, lost faith with them. And then they look at the fact that Reform is full of ex-Tories, and they worry, why would the same thing not necessarily happen here? I'm sorry to say this, because, you're criticising people on your own side of the divide, potentially. But there is clearly a tendency on the right, which is, as much as people talk about, you were talking about the Unite the Kingdom march and all that, there's a certain sense of steel within the right. There are also an awful lot of people who rise to the top of right-wing politics, who are careerists, who don't believe in anything. And, I can name so many, both in Reform and the Conservatives. I'm not going to go down that route, but the point is, everybody knows they exist. Everybody knows that these parties attract these sorts of people. What is wrong with having, and if it takes another insurgent party, what's wrong with having another one to keep those people honest? Because clearly they need to be told.
I get this in terms of I'm fed up with this conversation anyway, because it is just gassing on about something which frankly is ludicrous. Anyone can stand, anyone can be in politics, and anyone can have whatever policies they want, and I understand the whole keeping a party honest, etc. But this one, like I said, it's just not even different.
Do you think Burnham's going to win?
No.
That was actually the key. That was actually where we
We'll
got.
see, won't we? That's the thing, we'll see. But I don't think so, but
I
we'll
don't think
see.
he is either.
I'm afraid I don't have a crystal ball. But I do have an advert break in which I'm going to hopefully get a cup of tea. Back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. Someone's message saying we sound like a married couple. Someone else has just sent a message going, is Starmer autistic? I don't know, I'm not his doctor.
Good question.
Valid question.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, neither would I. Okay,
Big fan of lining up his tools in order of size, basically.
Let us talk about a couple of stories that have stood out to me today. One is this is the absurdity of this country. Whitehall civil servants are planning to paralyse the government with sustained campaigns of strikes if Farage wins the next election. The largest trade union for civil servants will this week vote on a motion calling for an industrial defence strategy to sabotage the Farage administration, with workers ready to strike with minimal notice. But do you know what I think about this? Reform, I think, wants to cut down the size of civil service by about 2/3. Great, that answers the question.
Yeah.
Who is it that we should be getting rid of? Oh, those ones. Bye.
I was going to say it does their job for them.
Yeah.
Everybody's been sat here going, Reform are going to have a real difficult job on their hands when they get into government because of all of the obstruction. If all of those people just walk out the door, it's kind of like, wow, that was really obstructive of them. Oh, what a shame.
Bye, don't come back. I mean, I don't know the legalities around strikes and then terminating contracts, and I don't know. I suppose Reform would have to pass some sort
I suspect that they're irritatingly complex and costly for that reason. Or if they're not, they're about to be in the next couple of months.
Now, because it's you,
Go on.
there's a little thing here about pensions. I know you love it.
Of course there is.
Yeah,
Of course
yeah.
there is.
And civil service. So civil servants are actually drawing taxpayer-funded pensions of more than $150,000 a year. And that's despite there having been reforms designed to curb gold-plated public sector payouts. So the civil service pension scheme will cost taxpayers £7 billion alone this year. 7 billion.
I would, sorry, yeah, continue.
23 people are getting more than £150,000 a year. 263 are getting £100,000. It's a guaranteed inflation-linked pension for life. Lucky them. I mean,
yeah, just honestly, anybody. Look, we have this discussion, it seems, all the time, and we'll get some people who will ring up and say, "Well, my
should they
pension's-"
also get the state pension?
Well, this is the point. People will ring up and say, "I'm impoverished and I have a difficult time, and why are you being so mean to pensioners?" I'm not being mean to all pensioners. I'm talking about this sort of thing, and I implore everybody, for once, to listen. This is what we're talking about. Huge amounts of money going to people who do not need it. It's questionable as to whether or not they've earned it. I understand, obviously, that's the agreement that they got when they signed up. But honestly, in a society like ours, where everybody is being impoverished, everybody is getting poorer, it is happening in real time. You can see it happening. You can see the earning power of people trying to get on in life diminishing. Why is it that up to between a quarter and a third of the country who do not need this kind of money are going to get it, and the poorer 2/3, it would appear, are paying for it also, and given how many people call into this show to complain, are more than happy to go into bat for those people. Why is it that the people who are struggling on their pension feel so radically angry that the millionaires should keep getting that money?
Well,
it doesn't make any sense to me.
It is about millionaires as well, because looking at this, 22 civil servants have accumulated pension pots worth more than £1 million.
Just think of what that money could go towards. Honestly, it's listen. If people want to call in and they want to say yes, those civil servants absolutely deserve all of that money every year for the rest of their life, feel free. But I just think the majority of people look at that kind of setup and they go, I don't think that's very fair. It's probably because it's not very fair.
Now, this is an interesting one. Says everything about the BBC, that the actual ex-BBC boss of news, a woman who goes by the name of Fran Unsworth, says she was driven out of her job by progressive madness of trans activists. She says, and this is an interview with Rob Burley, who also was her colleague, I think he was head of politics.
Yeah, he was.
Said... I would say it drove me out, just dealing with the progressive editorial issues and bullying around them all. It was incredibly difficult. Is this what we were talking about earlier, about like these mad people in media who are just so leftist and so radicalised because it's all about vanity and posturing. But the BBC, you know, when it's through the prism of the BBC, that is what's being piped into people's living rooms on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah. If you were to watch the BBC, you'd have no idea what this country actually looks like, what it actually thinks, what it actually does with its spare time. You know, they give us all Countryfile and they think, well, that's a little... You know, we'll throw that tasty morsel to the people who live outside of London. But actually, apart from that, everything, absolutely everything is seen through the sphere, the prism of London. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, the BBC is staffed nowadays predominantly by younger women who have these not just left-wing ideals, because let's be clear, Rob Burley is not some sort of raging conservative or anything like that, neither is Fran Unsworth. You wouldn't necessarily see what their politics are, but they're fairly standard, traditional BBC kind of people. This is not centre-left politics we're talking about. This is aggressive, radical left-wing politics, and it is not just a few people, it is throughout the corporation. And it is because these people are a product of the education system that provides these sorts of people. Universities, this stuff is now de rigueur, and increasingly at schools it is as well. It doesn't just emerge when they're at university. This is something that has to be taken seriously, and now we have here whistleblowers, people coming out and saying, this stuff was pushed as part of the corporation, and people were sidelined. Senior people were sidelined as a part of that. It's very concerning, but it's the sort of thing we've all been sort of suspecting for a very long time. Now here we have it from the horse's mouth. Actual BBC people coming out saying,
boss!
Yeah, that happened.
Oh, it's craziness. It is craziness. And, it, you know, like you said, it's women and people with very female mindsets. And I don't say that in a misogynistic fashion, but women are sort of more driven to vanity in some respects, let's say, in emotions and sort of, you know. In fact, Tony in Milan says...
I'm sorry, Tony in where?
Milano.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Donio.
I say, well,
in Milano.
That's exciting.
Too many women are becoming useful idiots and voting to make streets unsafe for themselves, and it's true. That's
a fairly standard attitude in Italy, I'll say.
Yeah, but in the programme, actually in Italy, in Moderno, there's been a horrible
In Moderno, yeah, there has.
Moderno, that's it. It's been a horrible incident that, a car has
hit some
rammed
people.
into pedestrians, and the guy driving the car jumped out with knives. North African. Just saying.
I mean, horrible.
Casual happens all the time now.
Yeah.
No, it is horrible. It's pretty grim. Shall we do one little voice note before we go to advert break? See, I got the nod from Chris there. This is Jay.
Hi Alex, fantastic show. I've seen online this morning via social media a song yesterday that was being chanted by the pro-Palestinian march. A group of people singing "Shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk, shoot him in the neck," Tommy Robinson. That's absolutely disgusting. I wonder how many people have been arrested for inciting violence. I mean, not only apparently has he got an ISIS fatwa on his head, which means they want to do him, on a British person English person on English soil. But what is going on? I'm not saying I'm his fan or anything like that, but I can't work out nothing's being done, and you've got these chants happening, and I can't see anyone getting arrested. Can we look into whether they're chasing up the Met Police and arresting these people?
Well, no, exactly. There have been arrests, and we're told that across both events there were, 40-odd arrests. And I want to know which side, because from the bits I've looked at, it seems to be more from people wearing Hamas badges and shouting things like that. But this is what I said at the start of the show. Good's become evil, evil's become good. And this government are just loving playing into that so much. I was watching Trevor Phillips on Sky before I came out, and he was interviewing Lisa Nandy. And she kept going, well, I don't know why you, as a man interviewing me, are asking me to speak on behalf of men who want to be leaders of the Labour Party. And it's like, oh, for God's sakes, bore off. Even Trevor Phillips was like, why do you keep making a point about men? I can't help being a man. It's just mad. Anyway, let's take a short break now. After the break, we're joined by Andrew Berry MP, who's Shadow Scotland Secretary from the Conservative Party. We'll be picking his brains about the politics happening today. That's after this.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Sinks. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, hello, welcome back to the show, and welcome to the show, Andrew Bowie, who's MP and Shadow Scotland Secretary for the Conservative Party. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed. Now, first of all, let's talk about the fact that the Conservatives are on Tuesday going to force a vote in Parliament calling on the government to approve the Rosebank and Jackdaw oil and gas fields to get Britain drilling to boost energy security and bring in tax revenue that could be used to bring down bills. That, can I say, sounds like an utterly brilliant policy. Donald Trump's been shouting from the hilltops about it. But is this going to get through? Because the thing is, the Labour Party have a big majority, and Ed Miliband is going completely the other direction, like the mad net zero zealot that he is, and he wants to prevent, essentially, any fossil fuel extraction from the North Sea for futurity, even trying to bind his successors.
Yeah, look, Alex, I think you should be doing my job, because I think you set out what we should be doing far more eloquently or effectively than I think many of my colleagues have been able to.
That was actually your press release I was reading. So,
right, there we go.
Back.
Fantastic, Luke. Well, those guys are definitely doing their job. Look, honestly, what we're trying to do on Tuesday is force a vote, because the situation in the North Sea is mad. We've got ourselves into a position where Britain is now importing more gas than ever before from Norway, who are drilling it from the very same basin that Ed Miliband is about to legislate to ban us ever from exploring in ever again. Last year alone, Norway opened up 40 new wells in their half of the North Sea. We opened up 0. And we're seeing thousands of people being laid off in Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland, yes, but actually around the country. It's damaging our energy security. As I said, we're importing more, and we're losing all these high-skilled individuals who could generate billions of revenue for the Treasury, which everybody, I'm sure, would agree we are in desperate need of. So the whole thing is completely mad. The energy policy in this country is being run, as you said, by a zealot who wants to go down in history as the man who stopped Britain producing oil and gas at the very same time when in every other country in the world where there's an oil basin, they are actually expanding operations and increasing drilling. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So I hope that decent and sensible Labour MPs, and they do exist, and the SNP and the Liberals and Reform can do the right thing and back our amendment on Tuesday. But I'm afraid I doubt that Labour will be able to do that because, as I said, they're being led by an eco-zealot who cares nothing for these jobs or for the economy of the UK.
Yeah, no, this is my concern because, you know, you guys, as we all know, didn't do fantastically well in the last election. So you are going to be leaning upon support from other political parties in order to get this over the line, which to me, I can't imagine the Greens or even the SNP. Do you think the SNP would support you in this because it is about jobs in Scotland, or are they too lefty to see common sense?
Well, I don't really know what the SNP's position is. I mean, in the run-up to the last Scottish election, they made great play about the fact that they were supporting the oil and gas industry. But for the best part of 10 years, they've had a policy of being against new oil and gas development. And it took until the last couple of months for them to say that they'd support developments at the Jackdaw and Rosebank oil fields. So I think you'd have to ask the SNP what their position is. Of course, we'd welcome it if they supported our amendment on Tuesday. It'd be a great step forward for the people of Scotland, not least people of Aberdeen, where we're going to have a by-election in a few weeks' time as a result of Stephen Flynn standing down, one of the constituencies in the country where this issue matters more than anything else, given it's their jobs that are on the line as a result of Ed Miliband's madness. So we'll wait and see what happens on Tuesday, but we'll be doing the right thing. We'll be voting to support our oil and gas industry.
Now let's talk about, you used to be Minister for Exports when Kemi Badenoch was Trade Secretary.
Yeah.
So I want to bring up our new favourite topic, back from the dead, resurrected in all of its glory, Brexit. because there's Wes Streeting thinking he's going to sort of, run into 10 Downing Street by saying to everyone he wants to rejoin the EU. A bit tone deaf, in my opinion. But what I want to know is, the thing is, people are banging on about having a closer relationship with Europe, basically becoming an orbiter regulatory, a regulatory orbiter in terms of single market rules and so on and so forth. But this is surely going to impact on the trade deals that we have made since leaving the EU. Talk to me about that, because you're going to be the expert on this.
Well, Alex, absolutely it is. And I think it's quite remarkable, given where you saw Labour losing most councillors just last week, which was in the Leave-supporting constituencies of this country in the Midlands and the north of England. And you've got a by-election going on that Andy Burnham's fighting in one of the strongest Leave-supporting constituencies in the entire United Kingdom. For Wes Streeting, who wants to be leader of the Labour Party, to come out and say that the way out of the mess that they've got themselves into is to rejoin the EU. You've got Liberal Democrats saying, and in fact Keir Starmer actually saying that he wants to rejoin the customs union or something to that effect, which would see us as a rule taker, but in a worse position than we would be even if we were back in, because we would have no say whatsoever in setting the rules as they stand within that customs union, because we're outside of the EU. And the very last thing the British people want surely is to go back to that division and that constitutional morass that was the Brexit debate between 2016 and 2020. It stopped everything else in this country moving forward. It had a great impact on the economy. Parliament was held at a standstill, and people were just fed up, frankly. So no, we don't need to go back and fight the arguments of the past. And on your point, yes, it would. Since we've left the EU, we signed trade deals with India, with Australia, with New Zealand, with the CPTPP bloc, and of course we've got this deal, not as good as Prime Minister claims it is, but certainly a deal with the USA. None of that would be possible if we were still in the European Union. So we'd have to rip all of those up with all the benefits that they have to the UK's economy, to go back into a union whose own economy is struggling. And frankly, the British people less than 10 years ago made a decision that they wanted to leave, and we should honour that decision.
I totally agree with every word you've said. Thank you ever so much for giving up part of your Sunday morning to join us here at Talk. Let's speak again soon. Well, we're going to go to a break now, so don't go anywhere. Put the kettle on, get your knives sharpened, ready for more cutting-edge political debates, because we are back just after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the show, and I should have thanked Benedict on air for spending the first hour with us, even though we did bicker like a married couple. We've known each other too long, that's the problem. And I think because he made a little sly point, he has a different sort of setup in during the week. So he likes to take the opportunity when he's with me to run roughshod over me. No, we do love Benedict. Anyway, thank you so much for staying tuned. 03444991000 is the number if you want to give me a call, because we'll be taking calls a bit later on, probably about 11:15. So roll up and let your interest be known now. You can also use that number to send me a WhatsApp message. 8722 if you'd rather send a text message. Write the word talk before you text. And I'm delighted to say now I'm joined by a woman I'm a huge fan of, London Assembly member, former Conservative London mayoral candidate, Susan Hall. Welcome to the show, Susan. Always wonderful to have you keeping me company. Let's talk about what happened in central London yesterday. And I want you to, in your own words, to sort of talk about the two different rallies, because I went off on one at the start of the programme, talking about this sort of weird inversion of good and evil that this government are forcing upon us, where we're supposed to believe that people shouting, kill Nazis, shoot Tommy Robinson in the neck, using the term Zog, which I hadn't heard of before, that they're the good guys. And the evil people, the wrong people, were all there waving their national flag and singing Christian songs. Did you go down? Did you see what took place in Westminster?
No, unfortunately, I couldn't go down, but I would have done. And, I mean, it looked like such good fun, didn't I? I had quite a few people texting me because I was concerned that there'd be some sort of difficulty, in as much as I know that people do go there to cause trouble that aren't so from the movement, if you like, Unite the Kingdom. But it went off really, really well with, I believe, 43 arrests over both the demonstrations, and we don't know yet from which demonstrations those come from. But it's wonderful, isn't it? You've got Keir Starmer thinking that these Palestinian marches are perfectly all right. Everything's all right with that. But God forbid that anybody that, is proud of our country, that wants to fly the flag, God forbid that they should take to the streets, because, as you say, they're the evil ones. They're the ones causing trouble. And I tell you what it reminded me of, Alex. When I was standing for mayor, the night before the actual election, Wes Streeting put out a tweet and it said, "A win for Susan Hall and the Conservatives is a win for racists, white supremacists and Islamophobes the world over. Susan Hall's campaign has been fought from the gutter with dangerous and divisive politics." Well, I was calling for more police, for better police organisation and the expanded ULEZ to go. And this is what they think of us. I'm exactly like those people down at the Unite the Kingdom rally. We're all normal people who are very fed up with the way things are going at the moment. You know, lots of those people will be or would have been Labour voters. They're not all from the right, as Keir Starmer likes to put it. And it's a damn insult that we're all called racists if we don't agree with them. And you look at the cabinet, if you like, or, as was Wes Streeting, you look at Keir Starmer. They're multi-millionaires. They don't have a clue how it is to go to the supermarket and think, how much? Good God. They don't know how the rest of us are living. And they treat us, as Angela Rayner would say, as if we're all scum. Well, we've all had enough of it, quite frankly.
We've definitely had enough of it, and I was very proud, actually, of everyone who went down to the Unite the Kingdom rally, because from what I saw, there was just happiness, there was positivity. Yeah. In fact, as I was walking up Whitehall after being at that rally, I saw people draped in Union flags cleaning up the litter, picking up after themselves. Yes, there are a few guys who are drinking from tinnies and getting not dangerously leery, but more sort of football match level jolly. Nothing that the average British man hasn't done for centuries. But it really was quite striking. I've got a question for you, Susan, because what we hear, whenever we tune into, legacy media or read newspapers, even, the Mail, which is nominally a right-wing newspaper, they always say far-right Tommy Robinson, the far-right Tommy Robinson. And I just wonder if it's about time that we reappraised this man somewhat, because clearly to a lot of people in Britain he's become something akin to a folk hero.
I think the left will always use Tommy Robinson as an evil person, and therefore anybody that goes to these marches is equally evil. And have you noticed, Alex, they use the term far left, far right, hard right, and all the rest of it. And yet, if you look at the media recently, they've been talking about people that are on the soft left, and they use terminology like that. If they're talking about the left, they say the soft left and gentle. And yet anybody that's on the right is hard right, far right, almost this whole evil thing again. Well, they won't get away with it anymore. 2 years ago, it mattered. Now people have just about had enough.
How worried are you about London going forward? Because, we had the uncancelled elections taking place in certain London boroughs. We've seen the Green Party sort of explode out of nowhere and becoming increasingly popular in mass conurbations, London, Manchester, places like that. And their type of radical politics scares me to the core. When we look ahead at the London Assembly elections and the mayoral campaign, are you worried that we're going to have multiple London boroughs turning to a form of sort of hard, radical, extreme left, I'm going to use those words because I can, politics, and how that's going to change the complexion of London, how London will then be governed?
Well, I agree, and I'd use those terminologies to describe the left. The Green, beg your pardon. The Greens are no longer tree huggers. They're no longer people that are all environmentalists who, they meant well. This lot don't. I am extremely worried about the left, and I'm more worried that as they're exposed, the people that seem to be supporting them are taking no notice of the fact that they're exposed for all sorts of things. It is very, very dangerous. In some boroughs, the right did well. In my own borough in Harrow, we gained 11 seats from Labour, which was good. My dear friend Alex Georgiou in Enfield, I think they're going to be taking over. The trouble is, Greens have got, they can be the kingmakers in some of these boroughs. And yes, it is very, very dangerous going forward.
Do you think, though, if we're going to find some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, that there's an opportunity here, if the Green Party run a mayoral candidate, one assumes they will do, that could actually be the end of our good friend Sadiq?
I think Sadiq will go anyway.
Ooh.
There were rumours that he was going to be put in the Lords. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Although, of course, that would have been at the gift of Keir Starmer. And, I mean, that man is just hopeless. And I think he will, well, he's got to go now, hasn't he? I mean, for goodness sake. So I think they will put somebody else up anyway. But let's wait and see. I don't think Sadiq will fight it again. So, yes, seeing the end of him would be good. But quite frankly, seeing a very hard left Green there would be even more frightening.
Yeah.
Sadiq Khan, and I never thought I'd say that. They're really bad, the Greens are.
Let's talk actually about the nonsense going on in Labour, because how do you see this playing out? Because I kind of look at what Starmer's done and think it's quite canny on some level. He sort of blocked Burnham standing in Gorton and Denton where there was a real opportunity for Burnham to win, and now it turns out that the seat he wants to contest is Makerfield, and Starmer's a lot more relaxed about it, because I would imagine that he faces an uphill struggle to take that constituency in a by-election. Which then leaves us with a Prime Minister who looks mortally weakened anyway. Rumour has it that he's sitting in checkers at the moment, plotting a timetable to stand down. But then who would take his place? I mean, could we see my big fear is that blimmin' Ed Miliband's going to pop out of a cupboard and go, "It's me," and then we're stuck with him as Prime Minister.
Can you only imagine? Well, or Angela Rayner, come on. I mean, she would just be an embarrassment to us all. But if you look at all of them, they're all champagne socialists, and people have admitted that they've come in with no plan. They go on about the Tories having 14 years, etc. But they had 14 years to have the best plan in the world. At the moment, the Conservatives are working on what they would do in power and really working out and costing plans. And I've no doubt other parties on the right are doing the same. But they had all those years, and they always assumed that they would take over. They had all those years to make plans. They've made no plans at all. But then the things they do promise, they don't fulfill. I mean, look at Sadiq Khan. He promised more police officers. We're actually going to go down to 31,000 police. And if you look at the demonstrations yesterday, we had to get police officers from everywhere else because we don't have enough now. I would say the police service is in dire straits in London, the Met, because they need more funding.
Talking about policing, talking about crime in the capital, how is your campaign going to get the mayor to take grooming gangs in London seriously?
Well, sometimes you give up on those thoughts, but I am chair of the Police and Crime Committee going forward, and we're doing an extensive look into this. So we're going to be doing a big report on it, but it's got to be taken seriously. They are in London, and we need to protect women and young girls. And when you look at the things that are going on now, unfortunately, people are coming into the country where their culture is that women are second-class citizens if they're lucky. And that, I'm afraid, will be playing out on the streets. We have got to get a grip of this. We've got to look after women and girls in particular, because they are suffering really badly, and it's getting worse and worse and worse before our very eyes.
I've got a question for you as chair of the Police and Crime Committee, which is, what on earth are we going to do about things like all these sort of money laundering shops around London, all the sort of, vape shops, the souvenir shops, the candy stores that clearly are fronts for something else?
Well, they clearly are. I mean, the thing is, there are lots of problems police-wise in London. The police need far more resource to actually start looking at this and getting a grip. At the moment, they're taking officers from highly specialised units to put on safer neighbourhood teams. I can't tell you how many emails I get from police officers who've got expertise in certain areas, and all of that is going out the window. They're being sent on the front line to be safer neighbourhood officers. Having said that, if you talk to my local ones, there's no more than there were before. The police service, the Metropolitan Police Service, needs a hell of a lot more resource going into it, not less, which is what Sadiq Khan is doing. And yes, you're right, these vape shops and lots of these barbers and things, they're all fronts, and we all know it. But the thing is, they're getting more and more like gangs that operate in different areas, and they're getting more and more dangerous.
No, indeed. And I often wonder as well about things like slavery in London. I'm sure that we must have a heck of a high amount of that as well.
Oh, yes, we've seen that modern day slavery. And yet all you hear from people like David Lammy is reparations for things that happened hundreds of years ago. For God's sake, look at what's going on now and deal with it. Honestly, they couldn't get themselves out of a paper bag. They are useless, this lot. I wish we could have a general election, but I think we all know they'll hang on to power for as long as they possibly can.
Oh, no, without a doubt they will, and unless they really do crash the economy, although they'll probably still hang on in the midst of all of that. Talking about elections, would you consider standing for London Mayor again?
No, I think there's rumours that James Cleverly might. I haven't spoken to him about it, actually. He's wonderful. I don't know. They're going to start looking, I think, soon. So by the summer, they might have started.
Susan, if I can just say, you've been my favourite ever candidate to be London Mayor, and I wish it had been you. I really do. Susan, thank you so much for giving up part of your Sunday morning to join us and have a chat all about politics. And great little insidey bits there, wasn't there? Cleverly could be the London Mayor candidate. Ooh, didn't know that one. Right, OK, shall we do a call? Let's speak to Liam, who's in Newcastle. Hi, Liam.
Hi there, Alex. How's it going?
Yeah, very well. How are you doing?
Happy days, not so bad. I've been listening to, Mark's show this morning and then yourself. Obviously, I caught on to the news with Wes Streeton and Andy Burnham want to rejoin the EU.
Yeah.
Firstly, what I'd like to say is basically, if that's the case, it wasn't in Labour's manifesto. So in 2024, they actually wanted to remain as a sort of Brexit sort of party, in a sense. They want to respect the people's vote. So if they were to do that, they would have to call a general election and have that in a manifesto.
Right. I mean, thing is, though, manifestos aren't worth the paper they're printed on anymore, are they? It's just sort of like,
Well, they're not,
especially this Labour Party sort of said much of a muchness, was never really asked about what their agenda for government would be, and they got in and went, hey, let's do all these mad radical things. Yay.
Well, there's that, yeah, but I mean, not to mention it's going to cost the taxpayer billions of pounds in order to actually activate going back to the EU. We can't just rejoin and pick up where we left off.
Right, it's craziness, isn't it? And you just wonder, do these people speak human? Because people just, it's an insult. It's an insult to people. We remember voting to leave the EU. We're not stupid. We know that we haven't had a single government who wanted this to happen and therefore has done anything useful to our benefit with it particularly. And now they think because they didn't do anything, and go, oh, well, you know, because they all told us it's going to be a disaster. Or the sky's going to fall in. We're not idiots. We know you gaslight. We know you lie. We know that when you say, oh, no, we're not going to touch Brexit, we completely support that referendum result, that you're fibbing, that you're, you know, telling massive porkies. Do they live in such a mad existence that they don't think the vast majority of ordinary Brits out there will hear that and be like, oh, thank goodness, I've always been hoping we could go back into the EU?
Well, it seems to me, Alex, that the head's clearly in the clouds. They're not looking at us people down here. You know, the people who are actually the electorate, the people that are actually paying their wages. I mean, to be honest as well, another point I wanted to make, if we did rejoin the EU, which I hope we don't, but if we did, there's also going to be the case that we're going to have to commit to joining the euro as well, and we'll get a lot of sort of pressure from the European Union to do that. So
not just that as well. In order to be a member of the EU, you have to be a signatory to the ECHR. Right? You have to be. They're separate institutions, but if you're going to become a member of the EU, you have to do that. So all the talk about leaving the ECHR in order to execute, you know, a programme of deportations that, frankly, is desperately long overdue, well, we're not going to be able to. It's just, it's abhorrent.
Alex, it's going to take at least, let's say, how long has it taken for us to actually get to the point where we are through Brexit? It's taken 10 years since the referendum, and where we are now. To where we are now. So if we were to go backtrack, we're basically going to reverse the process. It's going to take at a minimum 6 years, and then potentially another 8 to 10 years to get back to that sort of EU where we don't want to be. Nobody in this country right now, from my perspective, I mean, I'm a member of Reform. And I know a lot of people that I speak to my ward has just actually won a council seat. And I've actually been doing a lot of sort of door knocking myself, so I know what people in my area are thinking, and they're saying it.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you entirely. Liam, thank you ever so much from wonderful Newcastle. I lived in Newcastle once upon a time, one of the greatest cities on earth. OK, after the break, we're going to do more calls and more messages. So if you want to get in touch, now is the perfect opportunity, because then at 11:30, the chaos begins. Mr. Paul Cox is going to be here. So we're going to start, I don't know, having a little bit of fun, getting a bit loosey-goosey, enjoying ourselves as much as we can. But before that, I'd love to chat with you guys, especially if you've not phoned before. Make it your first time. We can do it together. Don't worry, I'll hold your hand. 0344 499 1000 is the number, and it's your normal network rate. 82722 if you want to send a text. If you're going to send a text, you have to talk before your message. You don't have to do that on WhatsApp, and the number for WhatsApp is the same as the number that you call, 0344 499 1000. Right, I hope you've got all those details, and can't wait to chat with some of you just after this.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Sinks. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Let us do some messages, don't you know? I have no idea I just did that. Have we heard from Starmer or Sadiq Khan praising the people on this peaceful march? Nope, thought not. Labour and the duplicitous left have left an open door. The moderate majority must rush in and lock them out. Oh, don't you worry. When they leave power, but which they will in the next election, I am certain, whenever that comes to pass, I don't think they'll be coming back in for a very long time. We're living in a crazy country when the leader of the UK does not know what a woman is and a deputy leader who thinks a man can have a cervix. I mean, come on, says Matt in Grimsby. Oh, that old chestnut. Why is that still going on? Do you think Labour would do a deal with the Greens in the by-election to get Burnham in? Asked Taff in Dover. I don't know, is my answer. The thing is, though, looking at the particular constituency, I don't think the Greens are going to do that well there anyway. You know, if we're talking sort of white, working class Brexit, I don't think, you know, Zach Polanski's kefir wearing, you know, chaps grinding. I don't think that's going to be their cup of cha, if I'm honest, but I don't know. Let's see. I've been gradually losing all respect for Rupert Lowe, but now I hate the man. Vindictive, spiteful and self-serving, says Brad in Cambridge. I must admit, because I know him from Brexit Party days, and I'm like, what are you doing? You know, I don't get what the point is. That's all I'm saying. And look, people said, oh, you've shown your bias. No. I'm the first person to criticise reform, OK? I'm the first person to sometimes turn around and go, I actually quite like what Sir Keir Starmer said today. What I do is try and present political reality to you as a journalist and as someone who worked a long time in politics. So for 20 years, I've seen how this plays out. And so my point is this. Either they stand, well, they are going to stand in this by-election, they stand and do well and end up essentially splitting the vote, and people will be really annoyed at them for that, really annoyed, because they will think that's counterproductive, apart from the few who are sort of, I don't know, like in love with the man, seemingly. Or they're not going to do well at all. So it sort of suddenly looks like a sort of social media charade and nothing more. Actually, do you know what? If I was Reform, I'd be kind of welcoming it. I'd be like, go on then, have a go then. Let's see how this plays out, because I don't think politically, that's what I'm saying, I don't think politically it's a sensible idea. I just don't think it will play well to people who desperately want to see change in this country, have been waiting for decades for that change to finally come, and now it's here. There's potentially a wrecking ball right from the heart of their own movement. That's what I don't understand, OK? And when people try and compare this to UKIP and Conservatives, what I would say is this. There was a heck of a big difference between David Cameron wanting to stay in the EU, hug hoodies, he loved that ECHR, you know, all of that. Wanting to have great relationships with China, who seemed to love a bit of immigration, who denied us a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty, who loved a bit of green energy. There was a big difference between that, albeit on the right wing of politics, but in my mind it was left wing, and what Farage has always represented. What's happened is the world has caught up with Farage, hasn't it? The things that he said for years about immigration, about leaving the ECHR, about net zero, which were once seen as crazy, radical, extreme positions, and if you dare speak them out loud, you'd be ostracised from polite society. Well, now that has become the majority opinion of the general public. So much so the Conservatives are parroting it. And so there isn't this great distance now on the right between all the things they're saying. I mean, if you really look at it, if you look at what the Conservatives are proposing under Badenoch, if you look what Reform are proposing, if you look what Restore are proposing, if you look what Advance are proposing, We're barely a cigarette paper between the lot of it. So what are you doing? What are you all doing? This is mad. It's just balmy. We've waited so long for the people who've always wanted these policies to be enacted by a government. We've waited ages for it. Ages. And we can see the devastation it's done to our country. So why? Why are you playing these games? Go back to your farm in Gloucestershire. You know, go and sit on lawnmower and count the zeros in your bank account. Stop derailing the project, please. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say. That's just political common sense. That's all I'm saying. Right, let's speak to Daniel, who's in Epsom. Good morning, Daniel.
Morning, Alex. How are you, hon?
I'm all right, my love. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, actually. I looked at the protests yesterday, Unite the Kingdom, and you know what? It filled me with hope, Alex. And before yesterday, I'm still worried about my children's future and the way the country's going. And something's really encouraged me, because native British people have been saying for a long time that they think that mass immigration from the third world is destroying the fabric of our country and it's ruining our home. But what's really encouraging is second and third generation black and Indian families are now stepping forward much more regularly to join us with those sentiments. They have eyes too, and they can see the decline and degradation around them as well. And I find that really encouraging that, you know, black and Asian people are stepping forward now on social media and in person yesterday. And they're they can see the place going to rack and ruin like we can. They have eyes too. I'm really encouraged that they are stepping forward now and they feel bold enough to see what we see.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, and I think that it is wonderful. It sort of reminds me of the halcyon days of the 90s, where, you know, you had plenty of mixed race people, black people, Asian people, whatever, in public life, but no one kept bleating on about racism. We just got on with it, didn't we? And this is the thing. This is where I'm also worried about some of the people who support more fringe movements on the right, which is, I find it abhorrent that anyone should be judged by the colour of their skin. I don't care what the packaging looks like. I care what's inside the packaging. And I have as much beef with white middle-class women, of which I am one, by the way. They're, you know, poisoning our society all too often, voting for the Green Party, wearing their kaffirs, saying that men in frocks should be able to come into changing rooms and all of that. There are plenty of Brits out there who are, you know, first, second, third, fourth, fifth generation, a parent who has come in from abroad, who are more patriotic, more British, more decent, more Christian, more right-wing, more morally good than half of those people who, frankly, are from the sort of wealthy suburbs of London and are, you know, more English than blimmin' English itself. So I get worried when conversation starts happening around things like, you know, generational heritage, skin colour, things like that. I just want people to be British, Christian. And when I say British, I'm sorry, it does mean feeling part of this country, cheering on our football team, waving our flag, knowing our national anthem, wanting to sing it, wanting to belt out Jerusalem. Doesn't matter what colour your skin is to me. It never has done. And that's what I thought was wonderful about Unite the Kingdom yesterday, because there were Iranians, there were Israelis, there were black gospel choirs. It was just, that was Britain. That was us. And yet, you know, instead, blimmin' David Lammy thinks that that's evil and divisive and far right, but loves all the people screaming fascist, Nazi and kill Jews just a few yards down the road.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, I have never known a worse government than we currently have. I mean, honestly, they must be the worst government. I think that this government is actively working against the wishes and wills of the British majority. All the things that we want, and we, you know, our main three. So you've got immigration, law and order, and the economy. And in my opinion, they're not doing anything about immigration. They're exacerbating it, making it worse. You know, hundreds of thousands of males coming in from the Islamic third world, committing all sorts of atrocities, endangering our women and children, you know, murdering people in some cases, raping. You know, they're not doing anything about that. Law and order, in my opinion, is at an all-time low. You know, violent attacks in our towns and cities, violent gangs, phone theft. I mean, stealing is basically legal now. I mean, people are walking into shops. The economy's really struggling. They've really damaged small business. I can tell you that as a small business owner, and all of the things, the top three sort of things that the British majority want sorted out, they refuse to do it. But instead, they're doing things like Chagos. I mean, who on earth, talking about reparations? Get a grip. I think that's where Labour go wrong. Everything they do is ideological, as opposed to doing what the British majority want first.
What is so interesting, actually, is the Labour Party represent a bit of an anomaly in terms of what's happened in this country electorally, because what happened was the people wanted government to be more right-wing, which is why they didn't vote for the Conservative Party. They thought, why bother? They're not going to deliver. And Labour won by default. So at the exact moment that people are crying out for a more right-wing government, we've got a more left-wing one, which has happened as a sort of accident of the way our voting system is structured and the fact that, let's say, Reform weren't ready to fight and win a national election, which is why, actually, the Conservative Party called it so quickly, because they knew Reform wouldn't be able to get their ducks in a row in time. So what we ended up with is the opposite of the direction of travel that, ideologically, the journey that the country's going down. Whereas what's happened in other countries, when you look at, say, America, they got Donald Trump, they got what they voted for. When you look at other countries like Italy, they got what they voted for. We just didn't vote and got the opposite of what people wanted. So it is a bit of an outlier, because also this politics, I'm sorry, it is going to be yesterday's business. It is so over. This whole woke nonsense, this whole open borders rubbish, this whole net zero zealousy, all of it is going to look massively old-fashioned and weird. It's going to be in a dustbin of history where people look back and go like, ew, that was weird. What were we up to then? That was mad, wasn't it? It is so, 2020 or the early noughties. It ain't 2026. It's not going to be 2027. This is the dying cries. This is the swan song of a political ideology that, frankly, needs to be planning for its own funeral. Unfortunately, that funeral date might not be just around the corner. Daniel, thank you ever so much for your call. OK, right, we are going to take a short break, but I can't wait. I haven't seen him through the glass yet. He's there. Where? Oh! He's here. Paul Cox, ladies and gentlemen. I can't wait for him to be sitting there. As long as he comes in with a cup of tea in his hand, hint, hint, we'll see you just after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello. Welcome back.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
How's hello to them, hello. Welcome back to the show. Paul Cox is here, of course. I left Paul a little present when he came in today. So basically what we do is we go through the news stories. Chris and I pick out what we're going to talk about. We print them all off in case I need to. My brain goes into sort of, stasis on a Sunday. So in case I need to remind myself what we're talking about and have a little bit of information, it's there. And Paul gets the same. And as I was going through the newspapers, I saw something that I thought, I'm going to leave that for him. Look, there it is. Some sort of envelope from the UNHCR.
Paul,
Dear Paul, do you stand with refugees? I'd actually answered it for you. I'd already written no in capital letters underneath.
I can't afford to go to the places the refugees go because they get more money than me, so
I know.
I can't stand with them, unfortunately.
I can't. I'd like to stand with them because I might get a hotel room in London for free. That would be helpful. I just say in this day and age? I could do with some free train travel, some free TfL. That'd be nice because I think they get that, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, I could do it for a free hotel room.
It's very topsy-turvy, isn't it? You'd think this is satire, but all we're doing is listing actual facts out. By the way, this is how we treat refugees. I would come to this country, even if I was doing quite well in another country, on a dinghy just to experience it for a couple of years.
I always say that it's the equivalent, right? Because I'm like, I totally get why they do it. I can't be mad at them. I don't like them and I don't like them doing it, but I can't be mad at them. Because if someone said to me, here, Alex, you don't really like, what's going on in Britain at the moment. Horrible, oppressive regime. Well, genuinely. I've got an idea. You get on a boat. If you land on the shores of Lanzarote, we'll put you up in a hotel. Great. Well, you get hotel buffet. It's not going to be the best, but it will tide you over. We'll give you a phone contract and all the rest of it. You can come and go as you please. And meanwhile, if you want to work on the side, we won't pay any notice of that. So also, because you're a refugee, you won't be paying tax. You just cash in hand. If you want to go pull some pints down Puerto del Carmen of an evening and put that money in your pocket, that's fine. Oh, and by the way, that money is equivalent, 1 month's money, which is about £2,000, is the equivalent of an entire year's salaries in the country you come from. So that would be the equivalent of me getting about 40 grand a month, tax free. Yeah. I'd be like, whoa, I'm desperate to do that. I'm getting on that boat.
Yeah, look, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's why we find ourselves in the positions that we do. It's why there were protests, rallies, marches. There weren't protests yesterday. Not really. I wasn't there, Alex, so I can't say I experienced the event. But from everything that I've seen and from my followers, that was just inundated me with photographs of them just, heading up on the train or enjoying a cup of tea with strangers because they're united by this one cause. I think it's a fantastic event, and I think what we're seeing as a result, particularly with Keir Starmer coming out the day previous and essentially calling everybody attending a far-right thug again. I mean, this man's like a goldfish, because it's exactly what he did after Southport, and now he's done it before the rally yesterday.
And also made court space. He really wanted it to kick off, didn't he? He was desperate to get back to those telly trials.
I think there were 40 arrests across the whole of yesterday.
I reckon most of them from the Pallies as well.
Yeah, I don't know what the breakdown is. I was wondering if they'd reported it this morning.
If it was all from the United Kingdom, they'd have said.
I think so too.
Because I'll tell you the things I saw. So I saw a dog wearing a Union flag with sunglasses on.
Yeah, that's
good. Everyone always likes that.
No one doesn't. No one doesn't. If you don't like that,
yeah, I don't even like dogs, but dogs in costumes are brilliant. So I saw a lot. It wasn't just one dog. I saw a number of dogs in costumes. I saw multi-generations. I saw people with little kids. I saw people who brought their grandfathers down in wheelchairs. I saw veterans. Oh, there was this lovely veteran handing out leaflets all about sort of veteran homelessness. I saw a lot of vicars. It was like some sort of, Christian jamboree. There were gospel choirs. People were cleaning up after themselves after the rally.
Yeah.
I saw there was one guy who was rather inebriated as I walked up. Again, I know it's hot in here, isn't it? The aircon's broken. Like, I actually want to take off the jacket, but I'm not. I don't think I can. If I faint, that's what's going on. As I was walking up Whitehall, there's this rather inebriated man. I love you, and he was like, it's like his starstruck. I can't believe it's you. You're Alex Phillips. You're Alex Phillips. Can I have a selfie? And I was like, okay. Then a few minutes later, he's like, can I get a selfie? He's like, we just did one. Where are you going? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. As nice as I think you might be, I'm not going to invite you along. We've only just met, and you're a bit drunk. But it was harmless. Yeah. It was, and the only thing which sort of middle class snooty, it smelled a lot like weed. There were definitely people on the old peace pipe down there. But, you know, very rarely do people on the old peace pipe have fist fights. So
that's true also. Look, what's happening now is a manifestation of probably 20 or 30 years of demonisation. Very sort of Fabian-esque, slowly demonisation, by the way, which most of us got caught up in. I remember 30 years ago voting for Tony Blair and swallowing a lot of this kind of, while those people
I've got a confession. I remember at one point I voted Lib Dems because I wanted the Lib Dem Conservative coalition, mainly because I had just come out of university and it was all that student, even though it wouldn't benefit me, I was like, it's horrible that people have to borrow so much money to pay for tuition fees.
Yeah, I turned 18 in 97.
No, what was I thinking?
18 in 97, so I meant my most idealistic. The most idealistic I ever became was pretty much centre left. I never really went... I've never thought socialism or communism, of course, was of any value to any community.
To make it clear, you've never been mentally ill.
Well, I have, just not politically. I mean,
do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't want to lie. But my point I'm trying to make is that not that you're stopping me, that I'm stopping myself. Is that we have been demonised for decades.
So long.
And then what's happened is these marches now. People are looking at it, you know, how ridiculous does it look if you were commentating before and saying these were evil, and then all of the images coming out, not just from people like us who talk about this in a favourable way, but people who never talk about this in a favourable way, having to report on it in a way that looks like a jamboree.
What I love is old Trevor Phillips, who I think is a national hero.
He's doing great, isn't he?
Is he knighted?
I
don't know. If he's not, he should be.
I think he might be.
I think he should be. If
we are knighting him here, actually.
We are knighting him live on air. If he's not knighted, bow down, Sir Trevor Phillips, because he is knighted. Good. Well, can we go... What's higher than Sir? Can we make him, like, Duke?
Well, yeah, I don't know what happens then.
King.
You end up in, I don't know.
He's great.
Pizza Express.
But he was the first one last year to basically go, yeah, I went to look at it. Very normal, sort of people you might queue in a theatre to, you know, all of that stuff. And because he said it, it was great because he gets to say it, because he's a former Race and Equalities Commissioner and is a man of colour, he gets to say things that, you know, white folk are like, oh my gosh, if I say that this was actually okay and a good thing, people are going to monster me. And that's the thing. When we talk about the fact that people have been brainwashed, it's being force-fed because, you know, if you work in the civil service, if you don't wear your rainbow lanyard and put pronouns on your emails, you won't get a promotion. If anything, you might get into trouble. In the public sector is riddled with it. It's now in the private sector as well. You know, work for big banks and all the rest of it. It's the same thing. In the school staff room, if you don't say I love Zach Polanski or quite like Nigel Farage, you're probably, you know, going to be booted out of a job. So there's been real world consequences mounting for so long now that people have been forced to have to bow down. It is like a religion. It's like if you leave the religion, you will be punished. If you don't say 10 Hail Marys, you're going to be like, I don't know, flagellated or something. It's got a religiosity to it, so people have been forced to do it.
Oh, it's very true. I worked for Transport for London for 12 years, and in my last 6 years...
Putting the trams into transport.
Yeah, I was actually. I avoided the lanyards, I avoided the badges, and most proud, I avoided for the last 6 years of TfL the unconscious bias training. I just kept dodging it. I thought, I quite like my unconscious bias. And
mine's very conscious.
Yeah, I know exactly what it is. But what I watched is people unengaged in politics, so therefore unengaged in noticing or being aware, them just eating it up, and then they were Pavlovianly rewarded for regurgitating it out. Just endless, like middle-aged white women saying, "Oh, I feel like I've had an overly privileged life, and I really need to look after," you know, pointing at. I've literally seen this, pointing at the black guy in the meeting, going, "It's him I feel most for." And you think he doesn't care. What are you pointing at him for? And you were saying something earlier, because so Trevor Phillips, if he isn't. He is now. Black.
Phillips.
What his job was. All the things you could list off. It's very Aldous Huxley. It's very Orwellian.
Yeah.
We are able to put people in little check boxes and say he can speak because he's got all these ticks. His opinion is no more valuable than mine or yours.
You're allowed to speak because you've got a certain skin colour. You can't say anything. You're white.
But it doesn't make any sense. And the thing is, I don't think that critical mass, that tipping has happened yet. But at some point, the equilibrium will change, and people will start to go. Particularly, I think, because I think people of colour, most of them don't care.
I'm like, are we allowed to say that? Or am I going to get in trouble with Ofcom because that's now an offence?
Well,
I never know what the latest
I don't know.
rules are.
The other day, I described a black person as black, and someone said to me, "Can you say that?" I mean, they were sat with me and were a friend of mine, and I went. I didn't even look at them. I went, of course I can say it. Why wouldn't I be able to say it? It wasn't on air or anything like that. But it was a genuine question from someone worried. Yeah. What do you mean? Can I say that person's black? I love the fact
that the word police is so mental now that they invent words, like the pronouns thing is just inventing words, like z's, theirs, like cis. It's like, what?
Well, we know why. Because if your policies are so ridiculous, you have to change truth for them to make sense. In order to change truth, you've got to change the words you use to say the truth. So if you can change...
That was profound.
You can change the words. I can be profound.
That was really profound.
And I can do these gestures as well.
Do that again. I liked that because profound. The policies are so...
Their policies are so ridiculous that they have they have to change the truth in order for us to believe them. In order to change the truth, they have to change the words so that the truth. Bam, cut it,
that
Chris.
Was amazing.
I won't say anything else that profound
was so
for a
good.
month.
Yeah, I think next time you need to deliver it in a more Trevor Phillips manner. Actually, that's what you're lacking. You're lacking his.
I can't do it.
Resonance. No.
He is better than me, but not because of the reasons that we pointed out earlier.
No, he's just great. We just love
a great guy.
Right, let's speak to Grace in London. Hey, Grace, how you doing, my darling?
I'm very blessed, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I am feeling very blessed myself. Did you go to the march yesterday, by any chance?
No, I mean, I hardly ever go anywhere. I'm just a reclusive, boring, hermit-like person who stays at home most of the time. But I saw quite a lot of it online. And one of the things I thought was that there's a lot of communal singing, and people like communal singing, and I just want to recommend to anyone who enjoys communal singing, try out church. People enjoy that kind of getting together and singing together. But I was thinking when you mentioned earlier people saying that good things are evil and evil things are good, that's obviously similar to a particular Bible verse.
Yes, Isaiah, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, the verse comes to my mind where Jesus says, why do you call me good? No one's good except God. Now, obviously, Jesus is God, so he is good, but he's kind of questioning the people who are saying that to him. And I feel like sometimes all of us can want to say, these people are good people and these people are bad people, and I'm with the good people. And I think this is exactly what Starmer was doing in his message earlier this week. And actually, all people are like a mixture of good and bad to some extent, and we all need to repentantly turn to Jesus because we've all got some sin within us. It's kind of, as was just being said, people use words in different ways. I think actually quite a lot of the public agree on more than we realise, but because we use words in different ways, we think those people are really bad and I'm really good. And if we kind of neglect to realise that we need to also be humble and repentant,
exactly. Exactly. None of us are perfect. We are all sinners, frankly. And we get very biblical, which I love. As a Christian, I love it. In fact, I just wrote a Substack article, because I've been going down the Bible hard. I love that vibes. And I've written a Substack article all about how the Bible basically warns against woke. It's all in there. And also, I think it warns against Islam. And so I've got Bible verses and put it all out there. It's on my Substack if anyone wants to read it.
I will. I will. I'm going to read it. By the way, Grace by name, Grace by nature. Good morning, Grace. I think she's called into the show before, and I do like I do like the things that Grace has said, particularly around right and left of politics. I've always had this theory that right is pro-humanity and left is anti-humanity, because left requires forced equality. So there's a forced equality of outcome. In order for you to believe in socialism or progressive left-wing politics, you have to agree that everybody's equal or everybody's good, and if they're not good, they're bad. The right don't do that. The right are much more accepting.
Yeah.
They have their view and they stand by their view, which is a view of conviction, which I love. Which is why we love Jesus as well, by the way, because he was of conviction, but also because it's true to life, it's true to humanity. The idea that you can't accept somebody with a different view and it makes them evil, to me, that's just completely anti-humanity. And as a result, we end up with this ridiculous politics. And when you lace all of your organisations, all of the government departments with this ideology, you end up with exactly what we've got in 2026. We used to say we peaked in 2020 with BLM and COVID, but it feels to me that wasn't. It might have peaked, but we've stayed at the top of that peak.
That's because, like I said earlier, we've got this blooming left-wing government when people didn't want a left-wing government. But it's going to go, like, this will be the last of it, I reckon. I do think this is the swan song of a dying ideology.
I do hope so.
Oh, we got to go to break, so let's do that. See you in a moment.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Sinks, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We work in a weird place.
We do.
Chris just came in and showed me a picture. Well, he showed us a picture. He's gone on AI and asked it to make a picture of woke Jesus, and he came and showed me. I was like, I don't like it. Jesus was not woke.
No, do you know what? They've co-opted it in order to make... I've seen this a lot, actually. I'm on one part of my social media. I'm still connected, particularly on Instagram, to the comedy community, because I'm still a comedian. I've got my own comedy clubs. And therefore, I see them all. And there's obviously this massive cohort of left progressive comedians. It's still the same, of which I'm not one. But what I am seeing is this demonisation also of Christianity.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying that it's not only white people that are part of the problem, it's evangelical Christianity. Actually, they don't understand what evangelical Christianity means, because nearly everybody I know that's a Christian isn't evangelical in the sense that they 100% believe the verses of the Bible to be exactly as it is. And by the way, even if they did, there'd be nothing wrong with that, and it wouldn't make them bad. It wouldn't make them a bigot.
Ultra good.
Yeah, you'd think so. But that's very interesting. They seem to have co-opted religion as well now.
See, we were just discussing this during the break, because I used to have this this meme, because like when I was growing up, I was so into F1, and I used to have a bit of a thing for Sebastian Vettel, and there was this meme which said, you know, doomed to be single because I've been mentally dating a celebrity. I'm like, doomed to be single because I've just been mentally dating Jesus. Like, you know, that's a high bar to reach. Let's move on back to politics. We've given Jesus a lot of airtime. He deserves it, but it's his day. It's his day. You know, lots of people doing this, churches around the country. So let's instead give some airtime to Wes Streeting, shall we?
Why not?
Why not? The second coming that is Wes Streeting, or the second coming of being in the EU. Apparently, he wants to resurrect it. See what I did there? Now, I think that this is, I think this is basically to throw a spanner at Andy Burnham, because he knows Burnham's standing in a very Brexity seat. He knows Burnham loves that EU. It doesn't hurt Wes because he's gold as green, isn't he? He's, you know, he's London.
He's Romford.
Oh, is he Romford?
Yeah.
Is it? I thought it's gold as green.
It's
I don't know. I'll take your word for it. He's Londony anyway, so you know the Brexit thing is, you know, you can rejoin the E is quite popular down here, but it ain't up in Makerfield. No. And so this is sort of now what, because he's played a clever card, because now journalists will be saying, Mr. Burnham, do you also want to rejoin the EU? They're going to squeeze it out of him, or it's going to be, you know, making all this noise about Brexit being at risk is going to play perfectly into Farage's hands in that constituency, and it's going to scupper Burnham.
Well, here's some facts for you. Makerfield voted 67% in favour of leave. They are 97% white, and they are culturally right-wing as a result. Now, that doesn't... They've had a Labour MP forever, and a lot of people go, well, they've had a Labour MP, so they must be on the left. That's not what it means, OK? If you're a traditional Labour voter, then yes, you are on the left in terms of unionising the workplace and standing up for the working class. But, of course, Labour don't do that anymore. They're not interested in that. In fact, no one does that anymore. Maybe the Greens are, maybe the Labour are pretending to, but Reform do. Reform are connecting with the working class. So I think that you're absolutely right with regards to Wes Streeting. I think what a ridiculous position to find yourself in, particularly if you take this as broader, wider UK politics, to say that people are clambering to rejoin the EU. They're not. Because they know what that means. That just means more disturbance amongst everybody. But I think that whilst Burnham is favourite in Makerfield, just because he's from up there and they might favour him some way, I think it's going to be a very, very tight race. If Reform put the correct candidate in there, then I think he's going to struggle.
I also think it's such a... What is the messaging from Labour on the doorstep? Because the Prime Minister don't want you to vote Andy Burnham. The leader of the Labour Party doesn't want you to vote for Andy Burnham because Andy Burnham's there to nick his job. So it's like, don't vote Labour. I mean, the messaging's going to be all over the place.
He will have to run almost as an independent candidate, which is obviously and demonstrably untrue. He is a Labour member. He is a Labour Party. He's a Labour mayor of Manchester, and he wants to be a Labour MP.
He's going to have to have his own manifesto.
He has to distance himself. Yeah, because look, usually local election results, by-election results, are protests against whoever's in government. He's going to have to frame this in such a way that he's not part of that government that he then wants to go and lead in order to win votes.
But also he's supposed to... The Labour Party want to replace Starmer with someone even more left-wing.
Yes.
And that constituency is clearly not a big fan of going even more left-wing. So
not at all.
Good luck, Burnham. I think, but Starmer's just sitting there like this, isn't he? He's like...
Do you know what? There was a part of me this week, because now we're watching an existential crisis happening in Labour, which, by the way, is damaging the markets, it's damaging anything getting done.
Oh, we're used to it. That's what we do in Britain, change our Prime Minister every 5 seconds.
Well, and no one has ever changed their Prime Minister halfway, well, not even halfway through a term, and then successfully held that afterwards.
No.
So they are doomed to failure, and we know they are for a whole raft of reasons. Every which way you look, every metric, Labour are over.
Yeah, you'd think they'd see what the Conservatives did and find themselves totally unvotable forevermore. I'm just sitting here going,
well,
crack on, I love it. I love to see it. Bye. Don't slam the door on your way out. Right, OK, we're taking an advert break now, but don't go anywhere because there is still half an hour of full fat goodness coming up.
Coming from me.
Just after this. Put the kettle on, see you in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Honestly, these guys, they're so unruly. Chris standing in there, yak, 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 poor yak, yak. I'm like, we're coming back on air.
Yeah,
get out, get back behind your
It's like
glass.
youth club in here, though. We love it.
Just you go where you belong. Right. Now, let's talk about this. I just want to watch you riff on this one, quite frankly. It's hilarious. Whitehall officials. We're talking about the lanyarding, the wokery, the sort of brainwashing of all the critical race theory. Blimmin' Whitehall's like the hub of it, isn't it? Apparently, they're planning to paralyse government with a sustained campaign of strikes if Farage wins the next election. The largest trade union for civil servants, not very civil in my mind, and hardly servants, will this week vote on a motion calling for industrial defence strategy to sabotage a Farage administration, with workers ready to strike with minimal notice. As far as I know, Reform's looking at ways to cut down the size of government. If they were sitting there going, right, how are we going to do this? Whose job has to go? Well, it's easy. Those ones who've gone on strike.
Look, I think we've all been saying this for some time. Ever since it's looked likely that we'd get a populist right government, which is the antithesis of what the blob is, what the civil service is, they've been planning some way of scuppering it. We've seen them trying to pass the left-leaning progressive Labour lords. Of course, they got rid of the hereditary lords now that would look down their nose at that sort of thing. They've been trying to bring in legislation that would thwart reform. The blob itself is trying to change its obligations in order to thwart Nigel and Reform if they were to get in. These are the enemy of the people, not to put too strong a point on it. The blob is the enemy of the people. Look, it's an absolute fact.
That sounds like some sort of 80s comic film.
Yes, the enemy of the people. The blob. Oh, the blob, yeah.
But it's the blob part one, enemy of the people.
Tremors used to be a film that came on about 4 times a year over Christmas. It was like these underground worms that would come up, and anyway, it doesn't matter. That's for another time, Alex. We can talk about that.
I remember Inner Space. Do you remember Inner Space?
Inner Space was great. Is that when he went inside?
Yeah, the man's in like a capsule floating around blood vessels and stuff.
Oh, that was
cool.
What the 80s was the last time I really watched films intensively.
This
but
is
anyway.
the thing. Yeah, in America, if I'm right, when Trump wanted to drain the swamp and Elon was brought in to doge everything, if I'm right, if my memory serves me well, I think they basically said to the American civil servants, if you don't want to work under Trump, come forward, voluntary redundancy, we'll give you a payoff and don't come back. That could be what Farage does.
So
all these people going on strike, it could be, if you don't want to work here, fine. Here's your, redundancy money. Off you go.
It's an unmitigated fact that the blob are running the country and always are. Yeah. Now, there's a good reason for that. First of all, it's because governments change all the time, so you need a continuity. However, they are entirely biased. If you work for the civil service, ironically, like I said earlier, you have to go and do unconscious bias training. That unconscious bias training is essentially programming everybody to think the same way.
Oh, it's actually bias training.
It's absolutely bias training.
Biasification.
So what we end up with is a whole blob of people that think the same way, and that think that Nigel Farage and the Reform Party are evil. They've been programmed to think they are evil. Now, somehow, you've got to change that, but every single right-wing politician now that's not in power knows that there's going to have to be massive wholesale changes in order to deliver anything. You cannot, if you went in now and made no changes, you'd have the ECHI, you'd have the blob, you'd have to essentially do what Labour and the Tories did, just slightly right-leaning. But that's no good.
You're not allowed to do anything with the blob. The blob is basically like it is the swamp. You can't get through it. You get stuck in it. And this is the thing. If I was Farage right now, I'd be putting out some sort of video on social media going, all right, civil servants, if you don't want to work under a Reform government, we really aren't going to make you.
Yes.
If you want to go on strike, you won't be welcomed back. And actually, instead of going about it that route, why don't you just take some redundancy money and jog off into the sunset?
Because I think I do believe there's a genuine case for that. What are they protesting against? If they go on strike, it's not terms and conditions, they are very good. It's literally on political view. Well, that's not something you're allowed to have.
Yeah.
Like I say, I worked for TfL for 12 years. You're not allowed to have a political view.
Surely you can't strike over I don't like the government. I mean, you're the civil service. It's contractually, in your contract, you have to serve whoever is in office.
And you can't strike on week one because they haven't done anything. Oh, what are you striking against? Well, we don't like them. Why? Oh, because the people who agree with us have told us they're bad. None of it's going to make sense.
No. I tell you what, though, if they do decide to leave work, they might want to make use of the government's National Careers Service. Right?
Yes.
Which is run by the Department of Work and Pensions, and it recommends a series of short online courses. So this is, reskilling. So if you don't want to be a civil servant anymore, you might need to reskill, and you might go to another civil servant in order to find out what you should do. And do you know what they recommend? A 10-hour course. We'll give you a certificate in tarot reading.
Tarot reading?
Yeah. So apparently the 10-hour course gives participants the skills necessary to pursue a career in tarot reading or offer comfort to loved ones in times of need. It includes sections on the history of tarot card reading, the meaning behind individual cards in the suit of cups, and how to select the ideal spread to suit individual concerns. I think that's great. I mean, AI is never going to be able to top tarot reading, do you know what I mean?
No, I guess it can. Well, I guess it can. I mean, I love the fact that tarot reading is adjacent to all civil servants' work.
I love this. They've also got another 10-hour course on colour therapy, which shows trainees how colours can be used to treat illness.
But how is that 10 hours?
Don't know.
How is that a 10-hour course?
Have you ever gone down a tarot reader? Ever?
Yes. Never been to one.
Oh, so I did. So I went to, when I was in the New Forest, down your neck of the woods. I love the New Forest. Weird.
Burley.
Burley, yeah.
I knew where you were
in
going.
the Burley Village Hall, they actually had when we were there visiting, they actually had I was going there for the cider, because just down the road from Burley, you've got New Forest cider. It's amazing. But anyway, in the Village Hall, as we're going down to get our cider, we saw that there was like a tarot reading festival, and I was like, this is perfect. So I'm going to go hit up all the scrumpy. We walk back, and then I'm going to get my deck done, or whatever it's called. So I went and got my deck done, and actually, thinking back on it now, she weren't wrong.
Great.
I did end up, my relationship ended. That's what she sort of said was going to happen. I was like, well, this guy, I'm going to marry that one.
Wow. Were you with him at the time?
Yeah.
Like, physically?
Oh, no, they don't like reading your tarot in front of other people. The other person has to go away because they can't,
Yeah.
And if you did the 10-hour course, you'd know that.
Yes, sorry, I haven't done it. No, I did the 4-hour course.
Oh, shame.
Yeah, look, tarot reading, I think is good. So
I
why
love
not?
all those things.
Why wouldn't you indulge in that? I mean, look at reality.
I
Seriously
know.
dull, and it's not working.
See, as a Christian, you're not supposed to play
No, of course.
horoscopes and tarot, but I'm like, it's a bit of harmless fun. I quite like it.
Of course it is. Remember Russell Grant in the 80s? Big jumper, big cuddly fella. I mean, I look a little bit like Russell Grant now. I don't know why I'm taking the mick. But, but he had great times, didn't he? He literally made a career out of it.
I love the fact that in The Sun, even though she's been dead a long time, the column is still by Mystic Meg, but it's now Maggie Innes in for Mystic Meg. I'm like, why didn't they just change the column to Mystic Maggie?
Because she's doing it beyond the realm.
I think she's still
wonder
there.
if she's still invoicing. If you were shrewd, you and I should put an invoice together to the Sun and say that we're representing Meg. Yeah.
Shall we speak to some of our wonderful listeners?
Should we speak to Mystic Meg?
Should we speak to Mystic Meg?
Yeah, let's speak to our listeners, definitely.
Do you know, I did say at one point I would love to have someone who is a medium come in here for the show so we could see if we could interview Margaret Thatcher from Beyond the Grave.
Oh, imagine
That'd be amazing.
I'd imagine Margaret Thatcher wouldn't be interested. She would absolutely not on a Sunday.
So, but basically, we've got Melanie in Cardiff and we've got Trevor in Bedfordshire. What if it's the Trevor?
It's Sir Trevor Phillips, isn't it?
I wish it was.
Of course
we'll find
it
out.
is.
Let's prepare ourselves in case it is.
Stay tuned.
Let's practice our skills on Melanie first.
Yeah.
Melanie in Cardiff. Borada, how are you doing?
Hi, Borada, Shemai. Alex, I just want to let you know what's happening actually with the civil service. Did you know that Gordon Brown, before he left, made a legislation that civil servants weren't answerable to ministers? Did you know that?
What?
That seems mad.
That's mad.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
It's true, though. It's true. So they're an entirely separate entity and they don't actually have to answer to ministers. This is why when the post office inquiry was going on, ministers were continually saying, we didn't know. They didn't know.
Ed Davey in particular.
Oh, so this actually plays into the whole, we didn't know that Mandelson didn't pass his vetting because the civil service said, well, can't tell the ministers, can we?
Who are they answerable to? Because they're not answerable to us.
Well, what's incredible about that is it would have been civil servants briefing people like Ed Davey about the post office scandal. So that it's just an ecosystem where the outcome can be completely and utterly designed by those people involved.
That's why it's the blob, and it's not controlled by anyone.
Oh, I like this. I like this. This is all starting to make sense.
Yeah.
Have a look at some of the people who are actually running a Home Office.
And do you know what? This ties in. Let's kind of roll our sleeves up and get our full investigative tinfoil hat stuff going on. Not you, you're not a tinfoil hat. I mean me. And actually, I don't think this is tinfoil hat, because Peter and Bromley has messaged in with something that I know a lot about, and most people have never heard of this, but Peter is on it. He said, Starmer mentioned common purpose in his pre-Unite the Kingdom March speech. I wondered how much of a thing common purpose is these days. Have you ever heard of common purpose?
As a phrase, I have. Sorry, Melanie, didn't mean to speak over.
Have you heard of common purpose, Mel?
No, it's fine. You go ahead.
Have you ever heard of common purpose, Mel?
Well, from his mouth, yes.
So basically, right, common purpose, I did some digging into this because someone else, actually it was Trevor Kavanagh. I love Trevors.
No, all the Trevors
I think the world should be run by everyone called Trevor. I've never met a bad Trev.
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah, my brother's father-in-law is called Trevor King, and he's
met a couple of bad Keiths, interestingly.
Yeah, Keiths can be a bit dicey.
I met a couple of good Keiths.
Trevors are always pretty solid. Anyway, so it was actually Trevor Kavanagh who said to me, Alex, look into common purpose. And I was like, who? What? So you can go online, look at their website. It looks really nice and shiny. Ooh. And they run these management courses, training the leaders of tomorrow. But what I know about common purpose is basically, if you've done the common purpose course, you then are in charge of recruiting the best person you think should also do the common purpose course. You know, an underling. So you've done the common purpose course and now you're running the, you know, chief civil servant in school exams or whatever. And you're like, right, okay, who's going to be my successor? They should go on the common purpose course and learn leadership skills. Yeah. But the thing is Chatham House rules. No one knows what they're taught about in common purpose. And it's everywhere. It's throughout the whole civil service. It's in the private sector as well. And it was set up by Fabians, basically. Of course it was. And when you look into it, it's been going on forever and ever. And when I started digging into it, there were people saying, you know, policemen and women, when they will say they've done the common purpose course on their CV because they know if they haven't, they won't get the promotion. So it's basically, as far as I can tell, some really sort of creepy left-wing brainwashing cartel where you only get to become whatever, like, you know, an executive or in charge of something if you've done common purpose. And Lord knows what common purpose is teaching, because I'd assume it's going to be lanyards and leftism, because it's been set up by... And it's a bit... People Google it. I mean, because I've been banging on about the Fabian Society for ages.
Yeah,
me
too.
People got excited when I did a whole bit on the Fabian Society, which is when Big Trev Kavanagh said, look into common purpose. And when I did, I was like, actually, that is as far as I can tell, I don't know, but that to me looks like the actual machinery. Whereas the Fabian Society is the ideological umbrella, the think tank. Common purpose to me seems to be their actual, a bit like LSE is their university, right? They set that up.
Yeah, they did.
They actually set it up, and that's their sort of university finishing school. And when you look at all sorts of people, Ursula von der Leyen, you can go down this, oh, they all went to LSE. Yeah. I bet they all did common purpose courses as well. And this to me seems to be, this is like the blobs, it's like Masonic blob.
This is really interesting, because I've spoken a bit in the past about the Fabian Society, and I hadn't come... It's always things like this, isn't it? And it's always associated... They're very good at coalescing the socialists. They know exactly how to pull things together. Melanie, I'm assuming you're not a socialist, but...
No.
No, fair enough. No,
so that's really different.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, this is absolutely fascinating.
So apparently, in the so Chris has done a Google, and he said that Gordon Brown enacted laws to make the civil service apparently impartial, independent, and legally recognised part of Constitutional Reform and Governance Act 2010. Is the act that we need to look at. But we're going to have to go away and have a dig around in all of this, Melanie. But thank you so much. Fascinating call.
Yes, Melanie.
Right, shall we find out who's our Trevor of the day?
Come on, Trev. Reveal yourself.
Let's, which Trevor have we got? We got Trev in Bedfordshire. Hey, Trevor.
Hi. Big fan of yours, Alex.
Big fan of yours? You're called Trevor.
You need to listen to Ian Jury's song, Clever Trevor, but that's another thing. I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm a big fan of Nigel as well. I voted UKIP, I vote Reform. However, something you said earlier just ticked a nerve with me.
Oh, yeah?
When you talked about Rupert Lowe standing down and all the rest of it. What I want to happen is Nigel, Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib to get in a room, to shut the door and not come out until they've reached some kind of agreement. Because it's not just this by-election where splitting the vote could be an issue. It's the next general election, almost more importantly. Something has to be done. And you've spoken a lot of times about Nigel and his security, and I totally agree with all that. But so the same goes for Rupert Lowe. These are brave guys. They put their heads above the parapet. There are lots of loonies who want to do them harm because of what they say. And I think Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib deserve a little bit of respect. And I think all three, could they not come to an agreement, Alex? And could they not get together somehow?
Well, look, I don't know because I can't answer on behalf of them. I know both men very well because we were all MEPs together once upon a time when we were a happy family and all part of the same group. Equally, I don't know what went on behind the scenes in terms of the big fallout and therefore where to point the finger of blame. So I can't do that.
Well,
but what
Nigel,
I do...
Nigel made some accusations, didn't he, that as far as I know haven't been substantiated.
Well,
That's what started it.
But I've heard things... During this whole period of time, right, I actually phoned Rupert, and Rupert and I had an hour-long conversation, and I was trying to sort of smooth everything over. And then the next day, he'd done this article, you know, attacking Nigel in the Mail. I just thought, that's that then. Never mind. Wasted my energy on that one. I've heard accusations from Reform about the way he behaved. I've heard accusations from Rupert Lowe about people in Reform. All I know... What was terrible is, you know, when this whole thing was going on, Rupert shouldn't have written that article in the paper, and Lord knows the whole report into the policing, which was mad to me. But with all of this stuff, it just seems to be... I agree with you. I just think these are grown men. You know, stop acting like kids in a playground. They are. But like what I would say is, I once upon a time, I really tried to be the peacemaker in all of this, and I wasted my energy, frankly. I couldn't sort it out, and therefore, and also there's so much water under the bridge now. I think they despise each other. You know, Rupert spends every last breath attacking Nigel, as does Ben. They don't talk that much about attacking Labour or the Greens or policies. They just seem to want to point their guns in the direction of Reform. So why on earth, if that's the case, would Nigel go, oh, I know what's a great idea. Let's all get together. I just think, as much as I'd like it to happen, I think it's not going to.
Well, I think something has to happen, because I am really worried about the vote being split in 29. And you know as well as I do, we're going to get the Lib Dems, we're going to get Labour, the Greens, probably the SNP, and who else?
Yeah.
They're going to gang up, aren't they, on Reform? And Reform are going to have to do a deal with the Conservatives, I think, because I don't think they're going to get an overall majority. They're going to have to.
Let's see, because actually this is what people used to say when it was sort of Conservative UKIP split, didn't they? And in the end, what happened was, in many respects, UKIP almost gave Conservatives a bigger majority, because they dragged in the red wall voters that the Conservatives couldn't otherwise touch. And then when it came to being at the ballot box, the messaging from the Conservatives was like, a vote for UKIP is going to be a vote for Labour. So people who were going to vote UKIP then ended up voting Conservative. It was almost like a sort of gateway drug for a Labour voter to then vote the Conservatives. So let's see what happens. We're not on a general election right now. Makerfield's going to be an interesting sort of microcosm into how a general election might work out. But, you know, the other thing you've got to bear in mind as well, Trev, is the Labour Party will be sitting there going, how can we stay in power by changing the way voting happens? They've already done the English Devolution Act. If they want to put us on a PR system, they will do. If they want to move to a DeHont system, they will do. If they want to give votes to 16-year-olds, they're going to move the mechanics of how we vote in the general election to do their best to stay in power. So really hard to say who's going to have to do what. But Trev, lovely speaking to you. Thank you ever so much for giving us a call. We've got to take a quick break now. When we come back, I'm going to talk about how the NHS is paying psychotic killers to give health advice. That's a real headline. You can't wait, can you? That's coming up after this.
welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Sinks, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, welcome back. By the way, Merv, can I just say I love your message. Merv said, Alex, I'm not a medium, I'm a large. Is that any good? I'm undergoing palliative care at the moment for cancer. When I'm gone, I'll try and get in touch on a Sunday. That'll be one hell of a show.
Oh.
I love that, Merv. And, you know, stay comfortable, stay happy, and thank you for spending time with us.
Also, thank you for sharing that as well, because that moved us both in the break.
That did move us, it did. Stephen Bromsgrove knows about common purpose. He says it's the means to achieve the long march through the institutions. We need to do some more digging into this.
Absolutely. I'm going to.
Yeah, I know you will. You love it. That's your lunchtime now, isn't it? Shall we have a listen to Patrick, who's left us a voice note?
Morning, Alex. Little ditty for our wonderful Prime Minister, Patrick from Nottingham. There's a stormer lives at number 10. The lesser of three evils, but they've all gone round the bend.
That was amazing. Can I also say, my favourite part was when he said, I've got a song for our Prime Minister, Patrick in Nottingham. I'm like, has he changed? Has the song gone?
Oh my God, it's Patrick in Nottingham.
Who is this Patrick in Nottingham who's now our Prime Minister?
Well done, Patrick, by the way.
I love it when people leave a little song. That's my favourite thing, musical voice.
When that first came up, I was thinking, I hope our producers have reviewed this, because I didn't know. I've never heard a favourable song, and that wasn't favourable, but I've never heard a non-rude song about Keir Starmer. And I thought that would just been hilarious if he just started effing and jeffing, and we just sat there going, well, we don't agree, but we have to apologise.
Yeah, just come off air early. Bye.
Yeah.
I'd definitely make the 1:30 train. That'd be useful. Oh, I will today, actually, as we're off air
Well
early. Excellent. That is good news for me.
That's your common
I'll even be able
purpose.
to get a glass of wine at the bar in the station. Life's looking good. Right, let's talk about this. I've got two absolute corkers for you. You know, I like to sort of harvest the goodness from our papers. So this is just, the headline's better than the actual story, but I still like it. NHS pays psychotic killers to give health advice. That's right. So psychiatric offenders are now being called patient experts as part of the health service's recovery approach. Several psychiatric offenders have been paid to advise the NHS on patient care.
I mean, it is poacher turned gamekeeper, isn't it? Or the other way around, gamekeeper turned poacher. I don't know which. But who better to advise? It is nuts, though, isn't it? Literally and metaphorically.
So apparently the NHS create patient experts, so people who know what it's like to be a patient, I suppose, to tell them how they should treat them or something like that. And quite a number of trusts have had psychiatric offenders as their patient experts who have either killed someone after being discharged from hospital, I shouldn't laugh, or have advised on patients' care despite having killed. What is going on? You know, we're going to be like, oh, let's go down Rose West and see how she wants the prisons to be run. Like,
she probably has a good idea.
This is madness. And I love the fact that this is a mental health trust. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? This is mentally ill.
I can't figure out if this is good, bad or ridiculous. It obviously feels utterly ridiculous. You're supposed to sort of... But you know what? Who better to advise? If you want to... Usually, by the way, doctors are the best people for this, you know, with patient experts. Well, we're all humans, so we're all patients. But I guess that I haven't killed anyone, especially after
I'm glad you've confessed live on air.
Especially after being released.
Makes me feel more reassured. I can now do this with comfort. I can turn my back to things and know I'm not going to die.
You won't, no. But look, I don't know quite what to make of something like this. I guess that if you are specifically interested in people that are killers, then you're going to have to speak to killers, because fortunately they're a small percentage of our community.
Dear killers, how would you like to be treated after you've killed? Let us know. Fill out this questionnaire so we make sure that you have the best possible service. It's a madness. All of this stuff, this is exactly the sort of bonkers bureaucracy that costs money. Just get rid of it. Now, Do you want to? This is my favourite thing that
Let's
I've
do
seen
it.
today.
I don't know. I'm blind to this.
Have we got it in the form of a clip, Chris? Is that how we're gonna do this one? Because, by the way, if you're listening on the radio, I'm going to have to try and explain what's in the clip. I don't know what the audio is like on it. There they are, pressing buttons at the computers behind the glass. Oh, gosh. Oh, my great plan is unravelling. We've only got 2.5 minutes left of airtime. Oh, man.
Can you describe it? Should
I'm
we
going to have
dance
to
it?
describe it. I can't. They're not telling me if the clip's there or not, so I'm just going to have to describe it instead. And I don't even have it printed out. Oh, but Chris has given me the... Wait 1 moment. Wait 1 moment. Keep talking, he says. Oh.
We can keep talking. This is live radio.
So basically, it is a man being quizzed by ITV Wales. He happens to be the head of Welsh Water, who is in a little bit of bother, quite frankly, because, well, like all water companies, they've not really been doing good things with the water. And did you say we got it, Chris? Yeah, we got it. OK, so this is the man who's the head of Welsh Water being interviewed by ITV Wales.
I had a look at your social media posts, and your Twitter handle, or X handle I should say these days, is turd69. Are you making a joke of this? Are you making light of this situation?
Look, that's my own private Twitter and actually wastewater, when you're going to spend all your career working in wastewater, you have to have a bit of a black sense of humour. So look, my private Twitter name is light-hearted, but that in no way reflects on the seriousness of the way in which we take our job here.
I love that.
And the work
my
that we're
favourite
doing
bit of the whole interview.